become your thoughts, thoughts become your actions. So be intentional about where your passion is focused. There's no hocus pocus. We only live once, man, and you know this. You can't press the rewind, but you can make a beeline to the next level like you're headed for the tree line. I was born in Minnesota, moved to Oklahoma, incorporated both into my rhymes. Now it's time to show you how a former stuttering student can turn out the raps with a
13 multi-million-dollar businesses.
We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we're here.
To introduce the Apple computer. Okay? Some people like Apple computers, some people don't. Let's not focus on that. But I'm saying is Steve Jobs invented the Apple computer and nobody wanted to buy it. Can someone please explain to me, Anthony, why did nobody want to buy the Apple computer when Steve Jobs came up with the first, he and Steve Wozniak invented the first personal computer? Why did nobody want to use it?
Because one, they were massive, and then two, he didn't really choose to execute the idea as he should have.
What do you think, James? What do you think?
I just think that he wasn't able to sell it.
Right. Nobody wanted a personal computer. We didn't have one, so no one wanted one. No one was running around looking for one. And so he hired Guy Kawasaki to introduce the computer to the world. And so Guy Kawasaki, they asked him, how did you introduce the Mac computer to the world? He said, ideas are easy. Implementation and sales is hard. So that involved him cold calling every school in America. Remember how when you went to school, there's an Apple computer in your school?
Yes.
Yeah. He was like, let's introduce the kids to them. So let's call every single school in America and offer them an Apple computer. But that's a tedious task. So you say, well, what are the things I learned from repetitively making phone calls? There would be 5 things I want to focus on today's show. I could go on for hours, but there's just 5. One is you learn diligence. It's the consistency of effort over time. That's Proverbs 10:4. Second, you learn how to develop a mental callus. You learn how to develop a mental callus. It's so important that you develop a mental callus. You're able to just deal with rejection and it doesn't bother you. Just like in a way that like water beads off of a duck, no problem. Just like
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
started from the bottom, and now we're at the top, teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on
the way that like a squirrel every day wakes up outside. You know, the squirrel's not like, oh crap, I'm homeless. I mean, the squirrel just, right? Just like in a way, I'm serious. Just like a way that like, it's just a cow isn't disturbed that it doesn't have its food prepared. It just eats the field, you know, just like in a way, it's like in a way that in a hard, I mean, I used to work doing concrete, but just like every day that we poured concrete, I knew I'm going to wake up today. I'm going to be sore in the morning. I'll be sore at night. My hands will physically be calloused and somebody will get hurt on the job site. Just like a linebacker knows after every game someone's going to be sore, just like a football player knows they are going to eventually be injured, you just develop like a mental callus. Third is verbal communication. And that is so powerful. If you're somebody who's listening to this show and you make calls for a living, the idea of recording your calls and then listening to your calls and asking yourself, would I buy from myself? And then being able to self-correct, that is a powerful skill set that nobody else has. It's a powerful opportunity. Fourth, facing reality as it is. Like just knowing that 100 no's equals a yes. That's so, people just struggle in our culture to deal with rejection. I don't know what that is. And then the fifth is recognizing that ideas are easy, but it's the implementation and sales that is hard. And once you become a master sales guy, life is a lot easier. Because most people can't sell. And if you can't sell, your business goes to hell. Your ministry goes to hell. If you can't sell, nothing goes well. That's how it is. So that would be the 5 things that I think that we could learn from repetitively making calls.
books. I break down the books. Disease bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of 5, that's why I'm alive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi.
Okay. And if you made calls not repetitively, you wouldn't learn these things. If you made calls infrequently, it wouldn't work. If you made, this is how it works. And I'll just be real with you. I think my favorite aspect of my, if you've made a list of the things I prefer to do, it's sales calls. Because it's like you learn so much from them. I don't learn anything you don't learn a lot about how life works editing videos. I mean, there's some things I'll learn, but you learn more by just the inability to sell something well is a problem. It's a problem for pastors. It's a problem for HR directors. I mean, yesterday we had a person that one of my clients, they couldn't even convince an employee to come work for them. How crazy is that? One of my clients yesterday is offering 2 times more money than their nearest competitor. And this particular person cannot even convince an employee to work there.
Wow.
That's sad.
Could you imagine what it'd be like, though, to be like in a professional career where you are offering 2 times more compensation than your nearest competitor? No exaggerations. And this person cannot beg or convince any employee to work there. Why do you think no employees want to work for this person, even though the pay is 2 times more?
He must be such a jerk. Or
What do you
something.
think?
He could be a horrible salesman, and he's not really getting people to believe in what it is that he's offering.
And the conversation we had yesterday is he does not inspire confidence at all. And he's like, I don't think anybody would want to work for me. I'm like, exactly. But the guy's never made sales calls. It's kind of late in his career for a 50-year-old man to come work here for a year and a half. But I think everybody...
It's the CNC up on your radio. And now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here.
You should get a sales job to learn these skill sets. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes.
So anyway, and then on part two of today's show, I'm gonna insert an interview I did with Jerry Vass, the best-selling author of a book called Soft Selling in a Hard World. May he rest in peace. It's the best sales book ever. For anybody selling mortgages, anybody selling anything, Soft Selling in a Hard World by Jerry Vass. It's the best book ever. Jerry Vass, may he rest in peace. And we'll end the segment with boom. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom.
To beat all other competitors' prices, or I'll give you the mattress for free. How's that sound? You look good. Let's sell some mattresses. Sales for me, it's what makes the world go round, and it's my life. When I step out onto this showroom floor, it's my time to shine. It's my time to dominate. This is my Coliseum, and I'm the gladiator. So, look out. Hey!
Hi.
Cameron Coates, nice
Hi.
to meet you. I'll be
Mary.
taking care of you today. Mary?
Yes.
What
Hi.
a great name. That's beautiful. And you are such a vision.
Oh,
Mwah.
okay.
Oh, Mary, what do I got to do to get you into bed today? Really, I just want to serve the people. I want to use my knowledge to better mankind. This is 100% memory foam mattress, okay, with a circle knit top. It comes from our King Arthur collection, and we call it Excalibur. Hop on up, Mary.
Oh, no, that's not necessary.
A lot of these guys out there, they're dishonest, But I believe in truth in sales. This is a limited edition, which means it's a collector's item, which means that it will appreciate in value. So really think of this mattress
Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we
as an investment into your financial future. I just love making people smile, If at the end of the day I've made at least one customer smile, then I've done my job, I've succeeded. I need them to buy something as well, of course, because they don't pay me for smiles. But I would be rich if they did.
2 men, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses, 8 kids. Get ready to enter the Thrivetime Show.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Thrive Nation, there are very few legal ways to get rich quick. Your chance of finding one of those opportunities is very, very slim, or about twice the odds of getting hurt in a commercial plane crash twice. Now, the bright side is that getting rich slowly is actually fun and will yield you thousands of adventures in the process. And on today's show, we are interviewing a guy by the name of Jerry Vass, who wrote a book called Soft Selling in a Hard World, where he explains in great detail that there are only 3 ways to really make exceptional money as an entrepreneur. One, you got to work at a place where no one else wants to be. I had a buddy of mine years ago that was an Alaskan fisherman, fishing in Alaska. Sounds like a lot of fun. No, it's not. I had one of our... Okay, James, we might do this as an ongoing segment. I don't know or not. We might do it as an ongoing segment. But Anthony sometimes will ask me questions that I believe are somewhat profound. Employees years ago that worked on an oil rig out there in the Gulf of Mexico. Rumor has it we have a couple podcast subscribers located in the Gulf of Mexico who listen to each and every show.
And I know you guys probably don't enjoy the time away from your family and living on a floating city that smells like oil, but you get paid well, right? The second way to get rich is you can perform work that no one else wants to do. Sales. No one seems to want to do sales. I like doing sales, but a lot of people fear sales. They're scared of sales. They just don't know how to sell. And when you can't sell, your business will just go to hell. And the third way to get rich is to do work that no one else can do. Well, Steph Curry can do that, and he's pretty awesome at it. Leonardo DiCaprio could do that, and he's pretty great at it. I mean, Oprah. I don't know how many people could do what Oprah does. Serena Williams, Venus Williams. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are LeBron James that can do things that I frankly can't do, and that's why I like to pay people with that kind of skill. I like to watch them. I like to vote with my dollars and say, yeah, Brad Pitt, you're a better actor than me. Mr. Tom Hanks, you're better than me. I like to pay to watch your movie. So, again, the three ways to get rich are you could work at a place where no one else wants to be, you could do work that no one else wants to do, or you could perform work nobody else can do. And it's really the last two conditions for making extraordinary money that we're going to explore on today's show. You see, learning to sell softly isn't only about money, it's about enjoying the process of sales. This little and I think that they should be answered in the form of a podcast when possible. So the question, I'm going to take notes, folks. James' manual called Soft Selling in a Hard World is all about reality. It's about a survival guide for the strange mastering of persuasion. It's a kind of a strange road to learning how to master persuasion. It shows you it shows you the mechanics. Soft Selling in a Hard World teaches you the mechanics needed to sell well. That's what the book is about. The book is designed to teach you the specific tactics, not the strategy, to walk you through the step-by-step process that you need to take. And the whole system, what's great about it is you can learn the whole system and implement the system and write all the scripts and utilize the system in a way where other people can do what you can do. You can make yourself repeatable and duplicatable. So you can create not just a job, but you can create a thriving business that can create both time freedom and financial freedom for you. My friend, selling is the highest paid profession in the world. I mean, our leaders in politics, business and research and the arts, they're all great salespeople. It's just a lot of times you don't realize that they're selling. I mean, you see presidential candidates, heads of companies. I mean, Steve Jobs was legendary for his annual presentations. Warren Buffett. You don't think of Joel Osteen as selling, but he's trying to convince you to become a Christian. He's trying to share with you the love of Christ. You might not think of Oprah as a salesperson, but she's trying to convince you to tune in and watch the show again. You might not think about President Obama as a salesperson, but he's trying to get you to vote for him. He was trying to get you to vote for him. You said the first time you heard me on a show, you're like, what is this guy typing?
Yeah.
What is all this typing?
I was like, who is this guy looking all the different screens in the background? I just hear jamming and busting. And I'm like, what is
his ideology? So if you've ever struggled to sell, if you've ever struggled to sell well, this show is for you. Or if you're very good at sales, but you've ever struggled to teach a team of people with no experience to sell, that's where the magic is. Can you teach an army of people to sell well? If you've ever struggled with learning how to personally sell or how to teach an army of people to sell, you are going to absolutely love today's show as I interview a great man, a wonderful friend of the show, Jerry Vass. Jerry Vass, at the age of 83, is now retired, enjoying the high life there, living in Florida, enjoying his home in Jacksonville and the fruits of his efforts. But he decided to come on to the show. My friend Jerry Vass decided to come on to the show and to share with us the answers to so many questions that I had as a result of reading his book, Soft Selling in a Hard World. If you don't have the book, get it today. Get out a pen and pad. You got to get out a piece of paper. This is a show where you got to take a lot of notes, and I would encourage you to get Soft Selling in a Hard World today. Without any further ado, my exclusive interview with Jerry Vass. Also, just a quick disclaimer. I apologize for the audio quality of this audio-only interview, but his phone was kind of cutting out a little bit. We tried to edit it the best that we could. And so without any further ado, here's Jerry Vass. All right, Thrive Nation, welcome back to another great conversation. And on the Thrivetime show today, Chup, I could not be more excited to have the man that I would consider the godfather of systemic sales. You see, back in the day,
going on.
Okay, so he was asking me, Anthony, what was the question? And I'll type the question on the show notes here.
So the question was, what can
Eric, I started working in the world of commercial real estate.
Yep.
One of my clients wanted to go into commercial real estate. And before we exited Fears and Clark, we actually had the commercial real estate listings for 1/3 of downtown Tulsa.
That's roughly 33%.
And do you know what sales book we use to build our scripts, our systems, our processes, the entire system that we used at Fears and Clark when representing Can Bar Properties and roughly 1/3 downtown Tulsa? Do you know what book we read, Chup?
What book was it, Clay?
Soft Selling in a Hard World by you, Mr. Vass. How are you, sir?
I'm perfect. Thank you very much. And I want to tell you, I'm flattered by all of this. I'm not used to doing this anymore because I've been out of the training business for 10 years because I got old and my mind took a vacation. So but we'll do the best we can.
Well, I appreciate you, and you are much sharper than I am. I aspire to be half as sharp as you think you once were. I mean, you are. Your book is amazing. The book "Soft Selling in a Hard World," and in that book, Jerry, you wrote, if you aren't selling up to your potential, you probably don't understand that selling is a game. Most people don't. Those who do make 85% of the money become executives or run their own successful businesses. This book is about fulfilling your potential without resorting to motivational and inspirational beliefs. As in sports, you find that certain mechanical moves need to be mastered.
one learn from repetitively making phone calls?
What can one learn from repetitively making phone calls? What can one learn? That's the question?
Yes.
For your inspiration or genius can shine. Like a dog can be inspired to chase a car, but doesn't know what to do with the car once it's caught it. This knowledge is about what you do when you catch the car. That thin slice of face-to-face time when persuasion really occurs. Jerry, I'd love for you to expound on this, and that's such a beautiful excerpt from your book. I'd love to get your thoughts on it.
Surely. Well, I use the word game in the sense of a professional sport. And just as any professional sport, one has to understand the game, develop and polish the skills needed, and have a plan for the big contest. In selling, that translates to getting your story together, getting your tools ready, and practicing your delivery. Then putting it all together under pressure in front of a prospective client. You may hear someone say, if my job doesn't work out, I can always sell. You never hear them say, if my job doesn't work out, I can always be an NFL quarterback.
Right. And I think the preparation that you teach in your book is what allowed me to be successful. Because, Jerry, when I was sitting down meeting with somebody about listing their commercial real estate, they would ask me directly, how many other listings do you have? And I would tell them we have this many listings. And they would say, what makes you different than the competition? And I had it all on a one sheet. I had all my sales presentations. I had all my testimonials, all my statistics.
Miracle flow in the cash to match. Yeah, I'm imported. A Minnesota refugee, but I'm consistent as can be as I rap on hip-hop beats, bringing rappers and tax. Even though that I'm wise, I can play that funky music, but I ain't vanilla ice. Here we go.
Okay, I'm gonna answer this question, but I have like at least 10 things. When you asked that question, it was like I had a system for it. I had incorporated all 7 of your selling moves, and it helped me be proactive so that I could lead the conversation, build rapport with the buyer, find their needs, deliver benefits supported by facts, and close deals. Jerry, in your book, Soft Selling in a Hard World, you wrote that sales is a profession identified with the worst of its practitioners. On behalf of that group, I apologize for anybody who I did a poor sales presentation on years ago. Not the best.
It happens.
Because they sell so well, the public doesn't identify those that are at the top of the cultural heap. The politicians, the movie stars, the talk show hosts, the televangelists, and the business leaders. The world doesn't view these people as salespeople, as outstanding salespeople. They're rarely caught practicing the selling trade. The best of them are so good that people simply like their quote-unquote personalities, because people easily confuse skill with personality. When you study the best, you find that they make many mechanical selling moves right. Is this due to practice or coincidence? Natural talent or learned response? Only they know for sure how much is talent and how much is learned. The results are the same. They convince, move ideas, create change, and solve problems. We love them for it, and we reward them with the best our culture offers: fame, fortune, cool clothes, and a big house. Jerry, share with us about what great selling is and what bad selling looks like.
Well, great selling is problem solving, pure and simple. You find the buyer's real problem.
A storm of, I had at least 10 answers immediately, okay?
Yes, sir.
So one is diligence. So the thing that I would say, and I mean this, and I had wanted to have...
And working with the buyer to solve it. You work together. To do that, you have to ask intelligent questions and listen intently. Bad selling is vomiting your stuff, talking, pitching about your stuff, and seeing the whole transaction only from your own point of view. Successful selling is explaining well what you do from the client's point of view. As in any activity, when someone is really good at what they do, it looks easy, even effortless. It's transparent. And whether it's running a podcast or playing tennis or skiing or selling, we all think I can do that, until we try and learn how difficult it is.
Oh, the one thing, Eric, that happened to us years ago is we were approached, Jerry, by the Scripps radio network. They produced HGTV, the Travel Channel, and they said, Clay, we'd like to have you produce a show that we're going to air in various markets throughout the United States. Now, I had heard a lot of Rush Limbaugh in my life, a lot of Glenn Beck, a lot of Tim Ferriss, a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk, a lot of the big names, and I have been a production person. I ran an entertainment company, so I've done a lot of audio production. And I realized going into it how hard it was going to be because I've been up and close to it. But I can't tell you how many people have listened to our podcast and have told me that they tried to produce a daily podcast for about 4 days in a row.
Maybe.
And then they ran. I have James on the show because, James, you've been here for a couple years. I put out a podcast every day. Now, I want people to understand this. Of things to think about or talk about, right? Because they weren't aware of the level of preparation needed, and so I think it's really hard when you don't know. And that's what I love about your book, Soft Selling in a Hard World. Everybody needs to own a copy of it because you break down the science of how to sit down with the prospect and build rapport, and it's very specific about what questions to ask. You break down how to listen intently. Then you explain how to find their problems, how to find their needs. Then you teach how to solve the problems, how to support it by facts. The book is so linear, and it breaks it down where I think the world looks at people who are great at sales and says, yeah, that's probably natural. It's
natural talent.
But it's not natural. It's a system. And Jerry, we work with hundreds of business owners all over this great country, and we often find that many of them seem scared of making sales calls. What would you say to somebody out there listening right now who is an entrepreneur or who wants to be, who's afraid of picking up the phone and making sales calls?
Well, I have told them often when I sit down with management, I say, look, you have a right to be scared because poor selling skills downline are a message to your market. It's your message to the market, and it is a waste of your money, and you trash the market as you go. And no business and no person likes rejection. The real problem is that all salespeople, and I stress all, I include owners and managers here, can see the upside of every possible transaction. Quote, this could mean $10,000 to my company. And
I have hit the number one on iTunes throughout my lifetime of every single podcast, of every podcast in the world. I have hit number one 6 times.
Boom.
That's wild.
6 times. Now, so since the downside, no sale, wasted time, expense, and they don't have the skills they need to control the downside and weight the transaction in their favor. Most of the time, they don't even know such skills exist. And they often confuse personal magnetism with selling skills and a signed contract with being liked. Neither of those is true. What is true is that buyers would buy from a donkey if he could solve their problem.
Chup, that's why I've done so well. People are buying from the donkey.
Yeah, we'll use that word. That's a good word to use.
Oh, no.
Not the other one.
Chup, no, come on, seriously. Only I can self-deprecate myself. That's you deprecating on me.
That's just mean, isn't it?
Now, in your mind, Jerry, why does it seem like so many business owners are scared of rejection when it comes to sales? That fear, they fear the word no so much. Why?
Because the real process is unknown to them. They are walking into a situation thinking, I have a good product, but they don't know one thing about the client personally and very little about the client's business.
So what would you say to a business owner? I see this all the time. They want to delegate their sales to an employee without actually using the script themselves first. Like they want to delegate the sales process to an employee when they personally have not used the system and or created a system. The owner wants to delegate their sales to an employee without them actually first creating and using the proven systems. What would you say? Think about that for a second. Either that is super depressing or super awesome. So I've interviewed the founder of...
Well, not to be cute, but I've run up against this quite often. I just say, look, you're an idiot. Because if you owned a major sports team, you wouldn't put a player on the field just because you liked him or her. You'd insist on training and practice and lots of it. Managing salespeople is one of the most difficult aspects of running a business. I mean, I've been in business since I was 17 years old. I'm now 83, so you can count it up. Partly because salespeople take their cue from management, and many managers are not themselves trained. We've often trained salespeople where the managers would not come into the room with them, and so the salespeople ended up knowing more about sales than the managers did, which caused conflicts, in sales meeting because the people are going, whoa, wait a minute, and the manager's going, this is what we're going to do. The more years involved they are with their product or service, the shallower the presentation becomes. The senior salesperson is often the worst person to teach others down the line. They're often product-oriented, make a few new calls, and sell to their old connections, so they don't like being told they don't know what they're doing. Business has changed now, and businesses that keep on selling the same way will eventually fall behind.
Jerry, in Soft Selling in a Hard World, you wrote a statement that blew my mind. Netflix, I've interviewed the founder of Square. I've interviewed Wolfgang Puck. I've interviewed NBA Hall of Fame basketball players, David Robinson, etc. I have interviewed, the first time I read it, and I just kept reading it again and again. It says, there are only 3 ways to make exceptional money. To work in a place nobody wants to be, that's one. To work in a place where nobody wants to be, that's one. If you're writing this down, Thrive Nation. To work in a place where nobody wants to be. 2, to perform work nobody else wants to do. Or 3, to do work that nobody else can do. So as we're kind of thinking about that, Chup, I DJ'd hell gigs at the Holiday Inn Select, Jerry. I was a disc jockey. 7 days a week at the Holiday Inn Select for impersonators. So 1, I was doing work in a place no one wanted to do it. 2, I was doing work that nobody else wanted to do because no one else wanted to be a DJ 7 nights a week for impersonators who pretended to be Neil Diamond and Michael Jackson. And then 3, I did work that nobody else could do because who knows how to host 4 shows in a row that are exactly the same, saying exactly the same jokes and pretending like you care.
While bringing the heat.
Every single time, Jerry, people would pour in. I'd say, folks, welcome to the incredible Holiday Inn Select. You guys are in for a treat. We've got Neil Diamond in the flesh. And everyone's going, woo! And I had to tee it up every time. I was like, as Ed McMahon. I mean, so it's so true. That is such a true statement. So I ask you, Thrive Nation, how are you going to get rich? Now, you have to perform work that no one else wants to do, to perform work no one else can do, or to work at a place nobody else wants to be. Jerry, talk to us about the importance of facing the reality that these are the only 3 ways to get rich unless you're a unicorn example. Billionaire venture capitalists. I've interviewed the founder of Paychex, the billionaire. I've interviewed
Yes, or a drug dealer.
Yeah.
or a liquor distributor or something.
I'm going to write that down.
But
Hey.
These are financial conditions we all cope with daily. This book is about dealing with the second and third ways, doing what no one else wants to do and what no one else can do. As you have said, people are scared of selling, and many don't have the skills to close deals. Learning to sell well allows you to bravely meet both of those conditions where you both want to and can do.
Jerry, I love when you write in your book, you say, this book is about mechanics. I'll preach it. It is designed from the street up tactics, not strategy. You won't find any magic here. There is none. There's no underlying motivation or belief. Here's my favorite part. It says, it isn't about something larger than yourself. You don't have to believe in it to make it pay. You don't even have to believe in yourself. You just have to use mechanics. Jerry, I want to pile on there, Chuck, because when I was selling commercial real estate, I didn't care about commercial real estate.
Yeah.
I would say the vast majority of the business ventures that I'm involved in right now are in industries and things that I am 100% dispassionate about. But, my friend, why is great selling really just about mastering the mechanics of sales?
Well, done well, selling is a profession, and learning a profession isn't something that happens naturally or in a vacuum. It takes an awareness of errors and learning from those errors and correcting them.
Andy Schechtman's, Andrew Sorcini, the world's leading precious metals experts. I mean, I've interviewed, full disclosure, I love buying gold from Andrew Sorcini, BH.
Errors, and in doing so, you eventually learn the profession. Persuasion as a profession is no different. It requires attention, troubleshooting, and practice.
Jerry, I think that it seems so simple. You almost feel like, is that it? Is that it? No, but no, listen, it's not, Thrive Nation, it's not a one-time event. It's a process.
Right.
And so, Chuck, we have our sales meetings every single week at Thrive, every Tuesday, Jerry. Because of you and your book, Jerry, you caused this problem. We train our team every single week, and in that meeting, we record the calls.
Yep.
And we play back the calls of actual sales presentations.
While
we watch actual videos.
Yeah, and while reading the script at the same time.
And while the actual salespeople, Jerry, are in the room. So the salespeople actually get to watch themselves physically presenting on video and on audio every single week. And we do it every week. Jerry, for somebody out there that wants to do sales training like one time, why does it require ongoing training? Could you share that? Why does sales require ongoing practice?
For the same reason that football players have to practice every Saturday and several times during the week in order to stay sharp, there are only so many responses that are available to the buyer, both in role plays and in reality. And when you hear them enough times, you go, I know what to do with this. So it takes a surprise out of the transaction for the seller. And you just get better and better. And I have to say, having your
pm.com, bh-pm.com. I've interviewed General Flynn. I've interviewed Eric Trump, the president's son. I've interviewed
sales meeting once a week and doing role plays. I did that I owned a brokerage in Telluride, Colorado for 30 years, and I role played my people every Monday morning at 7:30, much to everybody's pain. And we control 30% of the total market, two of us. And so it's one of those things where you go, when this comes to this is what you do, this is what you do. You run down, you go for the long pass, or you go for the short out, or whatever. So it's practice and all of that is a very serious and rewarding activity for the business owner.
So, Jerry, can you explain to the listeners why you believe that sales is, that soft sales is a learned skill? Why do you believe that?
Well, because it doesn't come naturally to us. For 30 years, we taught a course in unnatural acts. And because the stuff is just not a natural response. It is a learned response. So for the soft sell, one has to put away the ego and let the buyer do the work. Well, believe it or not, it is very difficult for people to allow the buyer to do the work. We live in a culture that tells us we sellers are the center of the universe, and to sell well, one has to allow and encourage the buyer to be the center of his or own universe. Salespeople should talk.
Anybody? I mean, I have interviewed so many people, but how many people tell me no? So let's. I'm going to pull up a list real quick of people that have currently told me no.
And more than 40% of the time. The buyer should talk 60% of the time. Great salespeople are all above average listeners. When we taught people to do short list presentations in front of committees and buying groups and so on, we taught them how to give a mission statement, open with a probe, and then sit back and watch the action, rather than talk and do slide after slide and get into slide death. So we used to teach this. We did a course in civilized conversation, which is allow those people to do the work.
I love it. I love it. I totally believe in the rule of conversational generosity. Let the prospect, let the buyer talk the majority of the time. Now, Jerry, there's another knowledge bomb from your book that I highlighted and underlined multiple times. And it read, if you have a world-class idea and you want to give it away for the good of humanity, you will have to sell the concept. And if you can't sell it, you'll be stuck with your idea, poorer for your brilliance and generosity. It seems unfair, but even freebies must be delivered with a certain salesmanship or the receiver does not perceive the true value of the gift. Jerry, why do so many people push back on the idea of learning how to sell effectively and resort to saying dumb things like, this product is so good, it will sell itself? Oh, here we go, full steam. 3, 2, 1, dynamite on the scene. Boom!
Nothing is powerful as a changed mind. Boom!
Maybe this gets out to them and maybe it comes back to me and whatever, okay? So this is just examples. I've recently tried to get Chip and Dan Heath on the...
Well, because they love this illusion. It is a cultural thing in my estimation. It is maybe 2% of the time it's true that something will sell itself. But if your stuff sells itself, then it's not really selling. It is order taking. We all love the idea of the financial miracle, winning the lottery or unexpected inheritance from a rich aunt. And we're all looking for the magic bullet, whether it's weight loss or closing deals. Those are myths, too, and they're fun. But selling is a skill. There are no shortcuts to getting good at it and no quick fixes. It may not be the fun you're looking for, but the profession is very lucrative. The highest paid people in our culture are salespeople.
I agree with that. And I think that there's many people out there that want to go into the marketplace and they want to just state, my product is the best, therefore it's going to sell itself. And Jerry, in your book, you write, puffery is hot air. Webster's dictionary defines it as flattery, publicity, exaggerated commendation, especially for promotional purposes. In selling, it is claims that are unproven as stated. Typically, puffery words and phrases are, we're number one, we're the best in our business, save big money, a lot, high profits, and the fastest, etc. Can you explain for our listeners the profound difference between attempting to sell using puffery versus attempting to sell using podcast? I've interviewed them before, by the way. They wrote a best-selling book called Made to Stick. It has an orange cover. It's kind of well-known being in Target. And I'm getting rejected right now. I've interviewed Charles Duhigg. Representation, benefits, and facts.
Well, in a downscale market, we buy puffery all the time, but I happen to be in the executive sales training business, and so we were teaching people to sell at the very highest levels, which, of course, also works at the lower levels. The less sophisticated the buyer, the more likely they are to buy puffery. But buyers view puffery as lies. They may not be intentional, but the buyers don't believe them. First, they make all the salespeople sound the same. So everybody in your business then sounds the same. And when you get killed on a price negotiation, you have no defense. And second, they set up conflicts with your buyer.
I want to ask you this, Jerry. This is not about the sales process, but it's about you, the sales wizard. How long did it take you to write that book, Soft Selling in a Hard World, which is the Bible of sales? That thing is amazing. How long did it take you to read that or to write that thing? That thing is awesome.
Well, probably around 6 months. It's a funny story. We don't have time to do it here. Someday when we're sitting over drinks, I'll tell you the funny story about.
I'm coming to you tomorrow.
But it was one of those things. I wrote it as part of a software program I was developing at the time because I had my own get-rich scheme about how to build a playbook on a computer. And so we were developing that in the very early days, and that book was just part of a package of teaching.
Just reached out to Charles Duhigg. I had him back on the show. He said yes, okay? He's a best-selling author about the power of habit, all right? I've
people how to sell using computers. So it was really an ancillary program, an ancillary project, to this larger idea, which the larger idea failed, but the book was residual out of that, and it's now sold about, 80,000 or so. It's been on the market for we figured out the other day, 32 years or something it's been on the market. So it's been backlisted a long time.
It's kind of one of those books there that I run into a lot of high-level salespeople that have read the book.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not a book that everybody. If you're listening to this podcast, you should own the book. But if you're working for a company and you're selling burritos and you have no curiosity about how sales works, you should read the book, but you probably won't because it would require a lot of work and thinking. But that book is awesome. Soft Selling in a Hard World. Jerry, I want to go back now to asking you some of these questions about specifically the closing move. Can you share with us what the closing move looks like to you?
Sure. Actually, the closing move is the last move of the 7 selling moves that is explored in depth in the book. And in fact, most of the course that we teach or used to teach had to do with covering the 7 selling moves. It took 3 days. So it just encompasses this entire idea of how to do persuasion from the buyer's point of view. And in selling, this movement is called the close. This is the move that scares everybody to death. And
reached out recently to. These are just recent examples. I've recently reached out to try to get. Let's see. I have kind of a list here. Let me pull up my list here of just other people that I've reached out to.
And it's not just you. It is where people go, my God, what do I do now? In selling lore, this is the scariest move. However, this 7th move is the simplest move at all, but only if you have set up your whole meeting from your first words to solve the buyer's problem. The actual words to close can be as simple as, well, how do you see us working together to solve this problem? Or where do you think we should go from here? Or something along those lines, and let the buyer do the work. Now, we often get a comment when we teach this that says, well, they never said yes. Well, they were never required to say yes. It was all assumed that they would say yes, and if they answered this question, where would you like to go from here? You don't need yes, no. It just doesn't come to that.
With our wedding photography company and then with real estate, people asked me, they would look up Fears and Clark online. And by the way, if you're out there, Thrive Nation, take the challenge. Type in Fears, F-E-A-R-S, Clark, and then Canbar. Maurice Canbar, there, Jerry, is the guy who invented Sky Vodka. And after selling Sky Vodka for $600 million, he purchased 1/3 of downtown Tulsa. And he asked me to list and market his properties for him. And people would ask me all the time, Clay, when you're signing all those leases, what did you say to close the deal? How'd you do it? I said, well, I'm using my Jerry Vass moves
here. Right.
So I'm never going to say, well, do you want to go ahead and lease the space? I'd say, well, how much space do you need after you've looked at it? Do you want? Anyway, I have a list of people that I asked to be on the show, and I get rejected all the time. So, thing number one.
There you go.
12,000
There you
square
go.
feet or 10?
I'm sorry I stepped on your line, but that's what I was listening for.
I would say that, and then I would say now, okay, 12 or 10. Okay, great, 12. Okay, and then when would you like to move in ideally? The 1st or the 15th? Okay, great. And we need a security deposit here. Do you want to do debit card or credit card? Okay. You want to sign right here? And then I would walk in to the office every time, and Braxton was there, and Bueno was there, and Tanya was there, and our team was there. And every time they'd go, "Did you get the deal?" And I'd say, guys, this deal was kind of tough. And so they could only pay with a credit card. And I would just get a deal every time. I would close every deal. I'm not kidding. I went, Jerry, in 2007 when I ran my company, DJ Connection, as a result of your book, Soft Selling in a Hard World. I went the entire year. We booked 4,000 weddings. And of all the appointments we set, I only had one person say no the entire year.
Whoa.
One. Shannon and Clark.
You still remember him?
Oh, yeah. Oh, he shut me down, Jerry. He said, everyone in town's using you, so I decided to use somebody else.
Well, go ahead.
So that move works. Now, Jerry, you write in your book that trickery in closing is like trickery anywhere else. It's short-lived. What do you mean by this?
I mean, people teach, and I won't drop names, but you know who they are. You say, well, there's the puppy dog close, and there's this kind of close, and there's this reverse close, and there's, and I'm going, no, that's bullshit. I'm sorry. That is.
That you learn from making sales calls is you learn diligence, and the Bible says, God blesses the hand of the diligent and punishes the hand of the slacker. So that's Proverbs 10.
Not right because it takes away from the buyer's attention. The buyer hates that kind of stuff because they know all of these tricks. And so because they know the tricks fall flat, and it just turns the seller into this shuck and jive guy. Instead of being somebody that you would want to do business with, you go, well, if he'll shuck and jive me here in this transaction, what's he hold for me down the line when we're in a serious business? So that's why trickery doesn't work very well. And if you are in low street sales, pots and pans and that sort of thing, perhaps you can get away with it. But if you're going to be a legitimate professional salesperson, don't use trickery.
I love the phrase shuck and jive. Chup, I'm going to begin using shuck and jive and shenanigans as words on the show more often.
I agree.
Hold me accountable. Why have I not said shuck and jive for a long time?
You're practicing shenanigans, and you need to cut it out.
Jerry has a better master of the English language than I have. That's the whole issue I have here. Now, Jerry, I want to brag on Paul Hood, who's on the show today. Paul and his company, hoodcpas.com, if you're checking it out. By the way, we're number 3 right now on the iTunes charts. No puffery there, Jerry. In the business section on the
really?
iTunes
Good
charts, we're number 3 out of 530,000 podcasts, according to the Wall Street Journal, in all categories. I'm talking comedy, sports. I'm talking about comedy, sports, business. We are 4. So, James, Proverbs 10:4 says, he becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent man maketh rich. Number 26 as of the time of the recording of today's podcast. So Paul's been a sponsor the entire time. And Paul, over there at Hood CPAs, if somebody comes in and they meet with you and they do a consultation, you have multiple packages that the customer can choose from. Can you kind of explain, not necessarily all the specifics, but about the idea of having multiple packages and just letting the customer choose the options when you go for the close?
You bet, Clay. And one of the reasons we did that, it kind of ties in with Jerry's book, is Law of Clarity, where he says if you can't explain your product to a 10-year-old, then you don't know your product very well. You're not a very good salesman. And so what we have is we basically try to break it down into 3 decisions, and also so that it's not a decision between yes and no. It's a decision between which of the 3 do they want. And they go from a very basic, comprehensive, where we're just doing some consulting type work and meeting with them once a month, to the next style. Maybe if it's a business, we're doing accounting plus all the consulting. The third one would be if we're doing payroll and accounting and consulting. But it breaks it down to where, all right, Mr. Potential Client, which of these 3 do you want? Which best fits your needs?
We're doing textbook the soft selling close.
That's right.
Now, Chup, I want to teach Jerry a word here on this next question. Jerry, you've brought us back to shuck and jive and shenanigans.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a word.
Here it goes.
I'm a huge New England Patriots fan, and the word I would like to teach you today is wicked awesome.
Wicked.
Wicked awesome. And that's one word. And if anything is great in Boston, it's wicked awesome.
It's not hyphenated. It's just
Jerry,
wicked awesome.
I would like for you to break. So one, I've learned diligence. So when I was working at Applebee's, Target, and DirecTV, I ultimately learned to do sales through working at DirecTV. Then I got promoted, or I got another down your wicked awesome bonus move on page 119 of Soft Selling in a Hard World. You write about this wicked awesome move called cross-selling. What is cross-selling all about, and why is it so wicked awesome important?
Well, it's wicked awesome important because many, if not most, salespeople have several things to sell. And after the buyer's first agreement, because you're going to be closing incrementally, and after the first agreement, the salesperson now has a proven performer in the buyer and must move on to the second and third sale and so on. Some businesses can't even survive without cross-sells, and successful cross-selling cuts across the cost of sales and increases profits. And you run into it very often when you buy something. You say you want an extended warranty with that, or fries with that burger. You need some add-on accessories for that car. Well, that's where the real profit comes. And so add-on sales really is the profit center for many of these businesses and a way to survival for them.
You know, Best Buy.
The cross-sell always starts with a probe, too, by the way. Always starts with a question. And so you can just continue on. I remember I was trained early on, and I was selling mutual funds in one of my many careers. And I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know a damn thing about mutual funds. I didn't know anything about that business.
Opportunity to another opportunity, because I was good at that job, to go work at a different place. I worked at tax and accounting software.
But I was taught how to sell it, and I went out, and I just kept selling until I ran out of things to sell. I finally had to shrug my shoulders and say, well, that's it for me. I'm done. I don't have anything else left. So cross-selling is and can be pretty high adventure, particularly on high-end stuff like high-end real estate. I'm talking to business buildings and that sort of thing, because I taught that for 30 years. And where these people are making $1.5 million, $2 million, $3 million per sale, they practiced all the time. And when they practiced, it was serious, man, because there was serious money involved. And these were serious, bright, educated people. And they were wonderful to teach.
Now, this is something I want to hammer home on here, because Chuck, this great selling doesn't, as Jerry has mentioned in his book and then on today's podcast, great salespeople don't even look like they're selling, Paul.
Right.
It's happening. And I'll never forget this, Jerry. I called to book a cruise with Karen Wheelock. And if you're out there and you know Karen Wheelock, say that Clay Clark is bragging on her, because she was good.
And if you are Karen Wheelock, Clay Clark is bragging on you.
Oh, you're the best, Karen Wheelock. So I went to book a cruise, and Karen says, well, great. Yeah, and I said, how much are the cruises? And Karen said to me, this is the first cruise I went on, I insisted on being the cheapest price possible. And I had a small boat, got motion sickness the entire time. So the second time I call, and I said, Karen, I worked at Faith Highway Impact Productions because I was a standout, doing very well on the phones. I got promoted again, more opportunities. But James, can you talk about just being here in the office and watching me every single day? How much do you charge? How much would it be? And she says, Clay, do you, let me ask you, what are you looking to do here? What's the big occasion? And I tell her, and she's, oh, so you're going to surprise her? Oh, really? Wow. So let me ask you this. What are some of her favorite activities? Next thing you know, she's got the probing questions going on. Next thing you know, Jerry, she booked an appointment. She got me to commit, not to buying something, but commit to the appointment within 72 hours, kind of within that window of time when I'm still interested. I met with her, and she just continued asking me, well, if you're going to be here, don't you want to at least have like a balcony, or don't you want to get this, room service, or what about tickets to that? Have you thought about a catamaran tour? And Jerry, somehow that $1,000 cruise, I feel like that $1,000 per person cruise turned out to be about $5,000 per person, but it was wicked awesome. It was really good. So the cross sell, I mean, that is, woo. And one thing, Jerry, that you've talked about is that during your years working with thousands of salespeople, you've noticed that salespeople will instantly freeze up and seem to almost have kind of like a panic attack. I've seen it. You've seen it. It's a salesperson has almost like a anxiety, immediate panic attack. It's like their brain shuts off as soon as a buyer inserts any objections whatsoever. Why is it that most salespeople need to learn to overcome objections?
Well, quite frankly, if you can figure out what the problem is in the objection, you're about halfway to an answer just on that part without doing anything.
Joe's, cause I'ma take mine, boom. Leave them where they got if they ain't ready. Used to have a lot of homies, now they dropping like a belly. I'm like, boom.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce.
Every single day, record a show.
Yeah, it's. I would describe it as the Navy SEAL who wakes up.
So when you hear an objection, the first thing you have to do is figure out what the real objection is. English is a very complex language, and what you think you heard and what the buyer really is saying can be quite different. So the first move is to ask a question, something simple as, why is that? Or help me understand why you say that, or what is going on here, etc. We're now assuming salespeople have playbooks, so they will have practiced the answer to this objection. But it takes practice, and you're on the money having people practice, particularly in front of recording devices, cameras, and so on, because people cannot simply believe how bad they are until they see themselves on the camera.
So true.
Right. It's just humiliating. And so, I watch myself on camera and I just hang my head and cry.
Now, Jerry, you've written much about how salespeople can truly make a fortune if they understand that the profits are in solving the problems. I repeat, Chup, the profits are in solving the problems. Chup, I'm not sure if I'm communicating. Maybe my mic is cutting out.
You say the problems
the problems are in solving problems. Chup, do you get what I'm saying?
The profits.
Let me try it in Spanish. Profits.
El profito.
El profito are in
el solving el problemo.
Right. So, all right. So, can you talk to us about what you mean by that?
At 4 a.m. and goes running every single day. That's the type of discipline that you have when you come and make the shows every day.
Every day.
Every single day.
And the thing about doing the shows every day is there are...
Sure. When we circle back to the top of our talk today, selling well is problem solving. When selling to executives, there are really 7 business problems that seem to be universal, which we discovered in learning from our students. They're outlined in detail in my other book, Soft Selling to Executives, and they pop up over and over again. They are to acquire and manage capital, acquire and manage people, find and fill markets, meet and exceed the competition, improve quality and lower costs of production, maintain sufficient and predictable cash flow, overhead, maintain control and predictable overhead. When you're selling into this stuff at the business level, life goes pretty well. I mean, it's just that because people are not going to argue with you. You say, look, we're here to help you pick one, cut your overhead, or meet or exceed the competition, or find and fill a new market, or acquire and manage your people, or your finances. So when you hit the business level for upscale clients, that's where the money is, and really selling becomes consulting at that point, where you really are genuinely bringing value, true value, to your client.
I want to make sure some days where the level of rejection that I receive is so tremendous So tremendous. So that's interesting. And then
The listeners get a specific example of this, okay? So, Jerry, if somebody out there listens to our podcast and they reach out to us for business coaching, here are just some of the problems that we can solve, and I'll just kind of list them out. And Paul, you can chime in if there's something I'm missing out on. But
hey, I got a quote here. It's a business guru. If you got a problem, you'll all solve it. Check out the moves. Well, my DJ revolves it.
Thank you for quoting Vanilla Ice, the early 90s rapper.
Business guru.
I did. Jerry, are you a big fan of Vanilla Ice? Were you a big fan of the early 90s rapper Vanilla Ice?
Yes,
Okay.
Nice.
There he is. So this is the thing, though. People say, what do you guys do? Well, we do all the search engine. So what's the problem we're solving? How do you get to the top of Google? So we're getting you to the top of Google. We help you make a workflow. Well, what problem does that solve? It helps you create time freedom. Paul, sales scripting. What problem does it help for you when our organization helps you with sales scripting? How does that help you, Paul?
Well, it helps by creating a duplicatable system that can be scaled, so that it's not all dependent upon the top salesperson, me.
Videography. What problem does that solve, Eric, for our listeners out there?
Yeah, we're oftentimes educating the customer on who we are, what we sell, and we're showing them happy previous clients and testimonial videos as well.
A lot of our clients can't afford a videographer. Right. They can't do it. So we do the videography, the photography, the web development, the sales scripting, but we have to think about it in terms of the buyer. What are the problems we're solving for you? And the problem for you, the average buyer, is you have a small business and you don't have the ability to, you don't have the money to hire a full-time videographer and a full-time photographer and a full-time web developer and a consultant to make it all happen. And so the event that I do interview somebody like Eric Trump, yesterday, one of my businesses, I have a client that says he no longer wants to do business with me because I interviewed Eric Trump. So the second thing I learned, for $1,700 a month to month, for less money than it costs to hire a $10 per hour employee, you get all that stuff. And so that's I think, Jerry, a lot of us, we can become so experts of we can become such an expert and a guru of our industry that we can't explain it to anybody. And that's why I love the chapter of your book where you talk about the importance of positive self-talk and really sharing with yourself on an ongoing basis this positive, intentional self-talk and coaching yourself up. So when you head into the presentation, you're saying, I can do this. I've got it. I've prepared.
I already did
know
this.
what I'm doing. Jerry, can you talk to us about the importance of being intentional about what you say to yourself as a salesperson?
Yes. Because all of us, I have never met anybody who sold who didn't have fear at some level. And, I've walked in many, many boardrooms to sell our services, and I knew exactly what I was going to do and how to control it because I had studied it and written a couple of books about it and all of that. But even then, it's pretty easy to get tense in those things when it goes out of control. When suddenly the answer to a question ends up over left field someplace, you're looking at it and going, "What the hell do I do now?" Right? So it's easy for us to talk ourselves out of selling when all we can see is the stress of it. Preparation, knowing exactly where you're going.
This is what I learned. I learned how to develop a mental callus. Now, there are three approaches.
And where you're taking the buyer can change that. There are many more problems than problem solvers. So it's kind of incumbent on the salesperson to keep their eye on the problem. What is the problem? You could continue to go, what is the problem? And if you know what the problems are when you walk in, I would open with those. I would go into the boardrooms of big firms, and my opening shot, I just take a look around the room and say, "Hey there, my name is Jerry Vass, and when your people walk in to sell your services, they don't know what they're doing. And so they have one rec right after another, often 3 recs before they get to end of the first sentence."
Right.
And they go, "Whoa," because you can prove it. There it is. And they know it. Somewhere in their heart, they know that I am telling them the truth. Let's take the accounting business. 90% of new businesses fail within 3 years. That would be my opening shot.
90% of businesses fail within 3 years. So right away, it gets the attention
Yes.
of everybody in the room, and you can prove it.
And it's provable, and it's researchable, and it's all there, and it scales down or up depending on your perspective. It scales up to that 10% is remaining, but it's like half fail within the first year, and there's some long-term
That you can have when you're making cold calls. You can choose to deal with rejection because you're dumb, because you're numb, or you can say you're when you get rejected when you're making calls, you can
ratio goes like that. So, and more fail within the second year, but by the third year, there's only 10% left. And it's pretty easy, once you're aware of it, it's pretty easy to watch it happen in real time. And somewhere in your heart of hearts, you know it's true, okay? So when you have a reputation as a problem solver, the opportunities just naturally flow your way. It isn't effortless, but it's certainly at a greatly reduced effort. Salespeople and managers worry a lot about losing clients. I'll tell you, when you solve a client's problem, you can't get rid of them. I mean, they stick to you like glue.
This is so true. If you're out there, there's one gentleman that I met here about 2 months ago, Paul, at a conference. And he said to me, he says, this guy was in Florida, okay, in Florida. I won't give any more details. I'll just say he's in Florida. And he said, what I do is I'm a social media marketer, Paul. And I said, that's cool. So what kind of problems do you solve for your ideal and likely buyers? What kind of problems do you solve, you know? And he says, well, what I do is I generate leads. And then I said, do you? That was my question. Do you?
Do you?
Is it provable?
And he said, well, yeah. I said, so it's like how does that work? He said, well, you pay up front for the first 3 months. You got to prepay for the first 3 months. And it was a huge fee, Jerry. It was like $6,000 or something. And I said, okay. And then what happens? He goes, well, then if you want to cancel, you can after like the
react as though you're dumb, you're numb. You know, you can dumb or numb, or you can simply sip on the haterade.
Third month, because it's only like $1,000 a month after the first 3 months, the big upfront fee. And the guy, I said, well, could you show me an example of maybe a client you've ever worked with where they get leads, maybe just one? And he's like, well, Paul, there's kind of too many to name, you know? I mean, it's got a lot of them, really. And Jared, he's fishing around, and I was trying to help the guy. And then he pulls me aside at our workshop, and he goes, I got to be honest with you. I've never actually done this for people before. And I said, well, dude, that move doesn't work. What you should say is, hey, I'm a social media marketer. I believe in my product, and you'd be my first client, and so I'm going to do your first month for free. And then if you're happy, then I'll charge you this much per month. But you have to be direct and honest. You got to use facts. But you also have to get in front of the decision maker, or you're not going to have a conversation anyway. So the decision maker, Paul, if someone's trying to go to Hood CPAs, they go to hoodcpas.com. They listen to our podcast, and they show up at your office. The chances of getting to you, unless they have an appointment, are pretty slim, probably none.
Yeah, virtually none. Yes.
Because you are a decision maker. Therefore, you set up systems in your life and processes to make yourself unreachable. So Jerry wrote in his book here, he said, Jerry, you write, in your book, the decision maker is often as elusive as true love. Can you explain this, Jerry, why the decision makers like Paul are always so elusive?
Because they hate salespeople. Because salespeople waste their time. And our view is that,
you know, or you could basically turn the bitterness into betterness, okay? Turn the bitterness into betterness. So yesterday, I'm on the phone with this guy who hates me.
you should be able to go in, make a complicated presentation, close the deal, and be gone at the executive level in 15 minutes. So that means that everything is quantified, it is provable, there it is, you have a lead, you got a story. The problem here is that salespeople spend a lot of time talking into a receptive ear, which often has no decision-making responsibility. It's because salespeople often prefer to meet someone at a lower level who's more interested in the features of what you sell, and salespeople are often intimidated by executives who are interested only in benefits? What is in this for me, for my business? That's all they're interested in. And so that would then dictate that you would walk in and say, my business is to increase your bottom line, your net profits, by 2% annually. That's what we do. Well, we can discuss that, and because we're talking the executive language, so people they don't understand that executives are not interested particularly in features. That's for the people downline, the kind of computer or the app that they're using or some relationship that they have with some. That's not what they're talking. They're talking about the wrong stuff. Once you know what your product or service does for buyers and how you impact their company, you are way less likely to be intimidated or willing to waste.
He hates me because I interviewed Eric Trump. He hates me. And he sent a very long email explaining
time with someone who can't say yes.
Here's
a question.
Yeah.
How are decisions like this when you're talking to anybody in the firm? You are talking to the receptionist or you're talking to the janitor. You ask them a question. How are decisions like this made inside this firm?
I had a really good person today that asked me that, Jerry, a very skilled person. And for our Christmas party, it's going to be $55 a head, this year for the party. Every year, Jerry, it always is going up. Inflation, it's always going up there. This year, it's $55 a head. We have a staff all in between Z and I. There'll probably be 400, getting closer to 500 people there this year. There's a lot of people. And if you take 400 or 500 times 55, that's a large number. And so a person asked me today, they said, how are decisions made for you guys, for your holiday party within Thrive? How do you do that? And I said, well, my wife decides the budget for the party. That's what my wife does. She decides that, and so you got to talk to her. And I think it's so important because if you would have been pitching to me, I don't care how good the pitch is, even if I would have loved it, Jerry, I don't have the budget authority within our organization. We decided that 18 years ago that my wife would make all final decisions on that holiday party because I always want to swag it out and, spend money on things that we shouldn't be buying. And Vanessa is very good with the budget. And so it's such a wise question. Ask people, who is the decision maker? How are decisions often made? Jerry, that is so important.
Well, if you ask them who the decision maker is, they're going to say that.
How much he hates me. So I learned as a result of cold calling at DirecTV, Faith Highway, and tax and accounting software. I'm on the phone calling people, trying to sell them accounting services. I'm trying to sell.
That's me.
That's me.
And so you have to come in a side door on that. How are decisions made? My view is in asking questions and probes, you start every one of them with how.
I love it.
Everyone. And once you've mastered how, you can move on to some other things like maybe what and who.
How is so good. It's so good.
Okay. So anytime you ask somebody, I'm sorry, I don't mean to correct you, but this is what I do.
Yeah.
When you go, how are decisions made inside the company, you're going to get a different answer from who is the decision maker.
Well, I'll say this.
Okay?
I'm not going to argue with the sales wizard. I want to make sure we get this. The reason why we're doing this podcast and this next question I have for you, Jerry, ties into this is once you've read your book, right? 3 times, okay? Once I've read the book 3 times, once you've read your own book, Jerry, 400 times, you have to make a playbook then, and you have to write down the specific questions because you just pointed out you would prefer to ask how, which is a great question. And the thing is, off the cuff is a bad way to go. The pros prepare. They got to have a playbook. So you and I are having a conversation here, but you're going to, after you've read that book, and you've outlined and you've taken notes, you have to make an actual playbook because you and I both know that the devil's in the details. Can you explain what it means for salespeople to truly make a sales playbook?
Right. Well, it's on a basic, simple theory that if you can't write it, you can't do it.
It's the show. But this show does. In a world filled with endless opportunities, why would 2 men who have built 13 multi-million-dollar businesses,
pastors' commercials? I've literally been told by a pastor to go to hell. I've literally had a pastor tell me go to hell.
Self-selling is an action plan, and writing comes first, then practice on the street. The playbook is a working document. It changes over time as your business, your products, your services, your competition all change right in front of your eyes. So after each call, make notes of what didn't work and what you would change, and schedule regular reviews of your playbook for review and upgrading, because it's, life is a continuous upgrade path here.
Right.
It becomes an archive of the best of what you do. It's also an excellent teaching tool if you're called on to train new hires. So we have found that it becomes it's not priceless, but it is very pricey in the sense that it keeps you from making as many bad moves in a live presentation.
Oh, it's so good when you take the time to do this. It's so good. Thrive Nation, take the time to make a sales book. Now, Jerry, why do you think that most people never do take the time to make their sales playbook? None of our listeners, but other people on other planets, other parallel universes, other countries, not our country, other planetary systems, they will listen to a podcast like this, and then they won't actually make the sales playbook. What's going on, Jerry? Why won't people ever take time out to make the playbooks?
Well, they don't understand. This is my assessment. They don't understand.
Actually happened. I've had multiple pastors tell me, "Why are you calling me? I'm a Church of Christ. Don't you understand? We don't even have pastors. We have ministers." And I'm going, "All right, well, minister, I'm trying to reach you about buying commercial."
The importance of the act of the creation and design stage. Actually, what happens is people learn a great deal about their own business in the in the act of putting down the words and what they think they say. And so what you think you say, when you write it down, it changes in front of your eyes.
Yes.
It's like studying for a play where you read the words and you see the words and do the words over and over and over on the script, and then one day they change right in front of your eyes because you go, "Oh, I got it." So that's what a playbook does. It allows you to get it. And when building it, you're going to eliminate puffery and develop proof statements and quantify your benefits and find the unique benefits that you sell, and design a mission statement for both your firm and the upcoming call. So, and you're going to develop each of the 7 selling moves, which you've only touched on briefly here, as explained in the book, and that is those 7 selling moves. It's really the central theme of our 3-day, really hard selling course, because we end up developing the selling book. Ever did in class, and then sent him home to do homework, and there was 2 or 3 hours of homework every night.
Wow.
In order to work on the playbook. So
commercials. Don't you understand? We don't even have pastors. And I'm like, well, one of our clients is Max Lucado, and I remember this pastor said, "Max."
It's kind of a pain to do. It is time consuming, and it will tax your brain because you have to shift your thinking over to, how does the buyer think about this? We know what we think about it.
Right.
How do they think about it? So, and you will eventually develop a return on investment for the buyer of your services or your products delivered. So, the ROI at the higher end of selling, when you're selling larger ticket stuff, the return on investment becomes a very critical thing. We can say, look, you're going to give me $1, and I'm going to give you $10 back within 90 days. Well, that takes care of a whole lot of selling problems right there, and you can prove, if you can prove that, which we could in our case, you say, it becomes.
I want to, these final 2 questions, I am very, very, very passionate, Shep, about this next question, because I falsely believed, Jerry, for a decade, previous to knowing you, from age 18 to about age 20, I guess it's age 17 to age 27, age 26, somewhere in that time frame, I believe that sales was about motivation. So I would send my team to sales conferences all the time. And I would go to these motivational conferences. Now, let me tell you the kinds of things they would teach. And when I took notes, Jerry, I'm a note taker. These are the kinds of things they would write down. They would say, Cato, he isn't even a member of the Church of Christ anymore. And this whole, I have been literally told to go to hell by a pastor. Pastor says, go to hell. And not just one time, but dozens of times. So how is that an effective skill? Everyone stand up right now and say right now, if I can conceive it, I can achieve it. And they bounce the beach ball. The music's playing. And they're saying, everybody now. And everyone's yelling. They'll have you stand up on a chair and say, I can sell. And they would talk to you about feeling it. And they would talk about aligning your vision, Chup, with your goals. And they would talk about the power of discovering the infinite knowledge that you could find by tapping into the universal knowledge. Of course. They would never call it God, but it became almost like a religion, Jerry. There's all this motivation. Sure. And I went to one conference, and I met these people, and I thought, why are all of the jackasses here? And then I thought to myself, why am I here? And then I realized I also was a jackass, and I was going to the Jackass Festival, and I kind of liked it for the first 4 or 5 times because it was a Jackass Festival. But over time, I realized all of those people were always looking for the new get-rich-quick move. Their companies weren't working, and things were going to hell because none of them could sell well. So if I'm out there saying, okay, I've been to all those conferences, I've been to all those woo-woo things, I've walked on hot calls, I've watched all the motivational, Jerry, you've seen it, all the videos. I've done trust falls with my team. I've gone to ropes courses.
Hot calls.
I'd like to get your thoughts on how salespeople can overcome their fears and the best way to train your team.
Well, it sounds
for you, James, knowing that you're going to be starting this mortgage company, knowing that for 2 years, you have been rejected.
To me like you have much of this ball of wax well under control, but it reminds me of the question about they asked the violin player. The violin player asked, "How do I get to Carnegie Hall?" And the answer is practice, practice, practice. And the sales is the same way, and it is not a glorious. It is not a glorious, motivational-driven craft anymore. You can be a motivated football player. It doesn't keep you from getting your head knocked off out there. And so I feel the same way. If you know how to defend yourself with knowledge, then you can defend yourself in every circumstance that you run into, except earthquake and bombing. But you're never afraid. I was terrified for years, and I've been selling for, 150 years. Fear doesn't exist well in the face of extensive preparation. It just doesn't. And the way you work your people, and I think it's the way you're working them, which is you find a buddy and you role play every presentation. You don't wait for a perfect presentation. You just start using the skills and perfect them as you go along, because it is a lifetime skill. It isn't something you're going to do for a year and then leave, because if you go for a year and leave and you know your business, you're going to make yourself 100,000, 150.
More times per hour than most people get rejected in a year. You get rejected more times in an hour than most people get rejected in a year.
Yeah, you just become numb to it all. And anyone that
50,000, and nothing makes you feel quite as good as having a nice fat bank account. And there's no time like the present to begin to do that. So do it now. And I absolutely agree with the motivational ideas, because I think people do need motivation, and particularly people who work alone. They get bummed, they get disappointed, and they get disappointed greatly in sales because they don't have a skill to close deals that are walking in their door every single day. And those people turn around and walk out. I owned a real estate brokerage in the mountains, and I trained my people people would come in and say, well, we want to see what's for sale. And I had to train my people to say, well, come back to my office and sit down here and talk to me about that. And the first question from our side was, what would you like the real estate to do for you? And that then began to greatly narrow the inventory about what you were going to talk about.
Right.
And you just went along that whole line, and you qualified, until finally you narrowed it down to where you had, I got 2 or 3 properties that we could look at that'll do what you want.
You didn't
And
guess.
so-
You didn't guess. You asked those questions. It's so powerful.
Yeah. Well, it's this is, out of my experience, I've had a half a dozen trades, and some of them worked and some of them didn't. I mean, I'm
has an issue doing cold calls, go spend a week doing hard physical labor when it's raining outside, because it'll make cold calls.
I'm known for his failures more than his successes. So.
Well, I think your biggest failure is agreeing to be on our podcast. That just shows a lack of judgment there. But thank you so much for making one more poor decision.
I agree.
All right,
so
now
far this has been miserable. It's been miserable.
Okay, well, Jerry, I have a final question here for you. You've literally worked with thousands of salespeople all over the world. Why do you believe that most people just try to make things up on the fly as opposed to implementing a proven path?
I think a good part of it is laziness. I mean, there's 2 things. These are harsh words, but it has to do with laziness because it's work, and with a big W, and it's time-consuming, and people often do not even know that there is a proven path other than whatever the senior salespeople told him, who gave the new boy everything that he knew, which really wasn't very much on how to make the sale happen. Guy's been doing it for 30 years, and so he is wired. He's the number 1 guy in the company, and he is wired to accounts that he has been courting for 20 years, and so he confuses people when they say, let's watch him work. And he goes out and he says, hey, Bob, I'm here to pick up our order for this month or for this year, or here to move you over to that other place. And so when do you want to get started? Well, because
the easiest thing you'll ever do.
And you've learned though get to a place, James. You're at a spot right now where does it even hurt your feelings when people reject you?
It does not. But when I first started doing phone,
is already built. It looks really easy. It's very deceptive. Many people do not understand there's an underlying structure to successful human communication and persuasion. And working without a structure or a plan is a design for failure. And in this profession, there's no magic bullet in this profession, any other one that you can think of or will run into in your lifetime.
I think what you just said is so powerful. There's no magic bullet. There's a proven system. It works. It's called soft selling in a hard world. Paul, I wanted to see, and Jerry, if Paul no longer asks political gotcha questions, he no longer asks religious questions, he no longer paints our guests into a corner as one of our proud show sponsors, but he is a real entrepreneur with thousands of real customers. He has real employees. Paul, do you have a final question for the Wizard of Sales, Mr. Jerry Vass?
Well, yeah, and I apologize if this is a selfish question, but I would just like from the sales guru out there, Jerry, to do you have any advice for me? Because like I say, I'm in the wisdom business, and I read a long time ago, I can't remember the book, I read it out, that if you sell somebody, you break rapport, but if you educate them, you build rapport. But then I've got to balance that side of things, the hard sell versus being not creating too much of a wisdom-based or like you said, vomiting my product or my
sales. Like 10 years ago, I was selling health insurance.
Yeah.
Then dude, night and day between then and now.
And I'm to a point where
wisdom or my knowledge all over them. What kind of advice could you give to me for that middle ground that I've got to educate them somewhat in that 40% that I speak, but I don't want to vomit all over them, like you said earlier.
Well, Well, it sounds to me like you're doing it right. I mean, there's always a balance that has to be achieved, and there's a balance between advice and persuasion and knowledge and experience and wisdom. I mean, there's some kind of a balance, and I don't know what that balance is, but I do know that it is there because, I mean, what we just did here in this podcast is that I have worked hard to balance advice and wisdom and knowledge that I have gained doing this for most of my adult life, because it takes all of it. It's kind of the whole Megillah, the whole package. So, frankly, I wouldn't worry about it if I were you. I would do what I'm doing. If you're successful doing it, I do not believe if you can afford to give away a new car with every sale and you want to do that, for God's sake, do it. But if you can't afford that, you're going to have to figure out something else. And so it's one of those things where you go, I don't like to try to change people from what they're doing now if they're successful now. I work with people who are less than successful
I mean, literally the guys on the phone yesterday being like, I am so tired of you shoving the political worldviews you have into my face, okay? If I was going to listen to a political thing, I would have done this, I would have done...
And they should be, given their talent, their education, their preparation, their time and rank, their education in the market. When they're still losing, then they can use this information to start cleaning up their act and getting successful again. Most people have been successful at least once. But they wandered off. They forgot where the center of the universe was. Where the center of the universe is communication with buyers and potential buyers. They forgot that, and they started doing other things. I mean, I've done it. I mean, I had 9 man years in a software program because I lost contact with reality, actually. I lost contact with reality. I was going on this $10 million deal that I knew that it was going to be superb, and I was going to be rich for life and be able to buy myself a good used car. So it was, but I was wrong. I was wrong. And because I wandered off from the basics. So I don't think I'm the right guy to ask about what you should do differently. If you're successful doing what you're doing, for God's sake, don't change it.
Great. Thank you.
Now, Jerry, I appreciate you so much for taking the time to be on today's show. Where are you physically located? What state are you in?
I am on the beach in North Florida.
In North Florida?
Northeast Florida, 40 miles south of Jacksonville. I'm looking at the beach and the ocean as
altruistically invest 5 hours per day to teach you the best practice business systems and moves that you can use.
I'm done buying from your company. This is this other company I'm involved in. And I'm going, all right. And that probably cost me that conversation.
It is part of my success package, so we say. That and my partner of 25 years, Iris Heron, who actually is a co-author of the second book I wrote, which is Soft Selling for Executives. And so anyway, it's a very happy circumstance.
Is Soft Selling in a Hard World in print for the people out there that want to get a copy? I've been buying them off of Amazon. Is there a certain place you'd recommend all of our listeners to go to get a copy of that book?
No, Amazon is the place that the stuff is bought. And so that works.
Well, Jerry, thank you so much for being on today's podcast. If you see a pale male, the big white moose walking up and down the beach in Jacksonville, that's me, because we've been to Jacksonville a few times, and I am the most pale man in the history of our planet. So just look away. I don't want you to burn your corneas or anything. And when you see I like reflect light, don't I, Chup? I mean, it's truly Casperish.
Handsome.
Yeah, right.
What is the scream? Don't look at it.
Don't look at it. That was Jerry Vass right here on the Thrivetime Show on your podcast download. And now without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom.
I mean, I remember some bills of $4,500 a month just to get leads that I was having to pay for. And that's only get a lead and a contact, to where now I'm paying you $1,700 a month, and I got 80 some leads last week alone, and I paid you $1,700. And to me, that was huge for my
yesterday. It probably cost me $4,000 of like lost revenue because this guy hates that I interviewed Eric Trump. So the first principle I've learned is diligence, the consistency of effort. Faith.
That was one huge thing that just blew me away.
Okay, folks, money is a magnifier. That's what it is. Money's a magnifier. It's an amplifier. It just makes you more of who you already were. So as an example, if you're a complete jerk and you make a lot of money, you'll become a bigger jerk. And on today's show, we're interviewing a longtime client who's a really nice, kind, decent person. He doesn't claim to be perfect, nor do I think that he's perfect, but he's a guy that I use over and over and over. I utilize his services to plant trees and do landscaping for my family, for my business, because I really enjoy him as a person. I consider him to be a friend, and it's been awesome helping him magnify and grow his business. And without any further ado, we have the founder of Outside Inc., Paul Sullins. Welcome onto the Thrivetime Show. How are you, sir?
Doing good, Clay. Thank you for having me.
So, Paul, I got to ask you here, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm looking at your tracking sheet, which for anybody out there who's a client, we look at the tracking sheet. And last week you had 89 leads. So 89 people reached out to you to inquire about hiring you to do landscaping, pool maintenance, backyard work for them, outside remodeling kind of work. And then I'm looking at your tracking sheet like a year ago, and you were getting like 4 or 5 leads on a weekly basis. Can you maybe walk the listeners through what it feels like to be on the receiving end of 89 inbound leads in 1 week?
It's a little scary, to be straight honest with you. It's awesome just to know that the amount of work up front that we put in.
Like potatoes. If you plant potatoes, guess what? It's not exciting. And if you want to kill your potatoes, you pull them up, you dig them.
It's actually paying off. You see these people, you hear all these things, and you're like, hey, it's going to be there, and it's been kind of mind blowing to sit there and one of my office ladies comes in and goes, we've got 56 calls in one day right after a rainstorm, and to actually realize the work and the effort that we put in is actually coming to fruition. It's been amazing.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up your website, and I'm going to showcase what you do so people can get a little context to know you're not a hologram. Outside Inc. Irrigation. Outside Inc. Irrigation is one of the websites. Also, folks, if you do a search on Google for Outside Inc. and the word Tulsa, you can find the website outsideinc.co. So 2 different websites there. And when you go to outsideinc.co, we look at the service you provide. It's French drains, it's landscaping. You do monthly home maintenance. If you look at the irrigation services, you guys are doing irrigation system repair and installation. So you're not the only guy in your market who's providing irrigation systems or French drains, but you're consistently getting a lot of leads. So I want to focus on the 4 aspects of business growth. There's a lot of them we could focus on, but I want to focus on 4 today. The first is marketing. You've got to get reviews from happy customers. Every single week I harass you about this, and every week you show up with more. But these are actual customers that have actually done business with you. Can you talk about the importance, and I'll hit play, but I'll hit mute as I'm playing these. Can you talk about the importance of gathering up and check on them? I'm serious. You plant those things, you water those things, you have faith like potatoes. You see no progress until it's time to pull them out.
I didn't know that.
That's how potatoes are.
Yeah, I didn't either. Wow.
Second is developing a mental callus. Objective video reviews from real customers each and every week. What kind of value has that made when you're even talking to prospective clients?
It's made a lot of difference. I mean, a lot of the phone calls, we'll sit there and go, hey, we're the highest rated, most reviewed company in Tulsa. We do all these things, and they're like, yeah, we know. We went to your website. And we saw the clients speak about what you had done around their houses and how well you communicated with them, and that's how we decided to work with you guys. So it's just I've put on so many different client reviews and interviews on the webpage, and it's been completely different. Through some of your training and seeing some of your different videos from the business shows that you put on, Clay, I've noticed that we don't have to have the best looking and the most entertained TV produced videos. It's just getting videos of real people in their backyards, in their yards, and actually talking about you, the person, and the products that we've done for them and how they've enjoyed it.
How often, when you meet somebody, and again, we're focused just on marketing right now, when you meet with somebody, how often does the potential buyer reference the fact that they've watched a video review or have looked at examples of video reviews on your website as a percentage? Like, how often do they reference, yeah, I've seen some of the videos, or I've seen some testimonials?
Percentage wise, I would say at least 25 to maybe 50%.
Being able to, so what am I saying? Dumb, numb, bitter, or better? Anyway, so there's three ways. When someone says, don't
I have a couple different sales guys, and I have some ladies answering the phones here. And I mean, I'm hearing it all the time. I've got an office right next to the lady answering the phone. And, she goes, "Hey, how did you hear about us?" "Well, we Googled you." And then it's like, "Oh, hey, this. And they were like, "Oh yeah, we already looked at your website and saw all the views, all the video reviews you've done." So, I mean, it's all the time. It might be more than that, but I would say in the neighborhood of 25 to 40%.
And again, if you're talking about marketing, folks, we're talking about marketing. It's VISM. There's other details, but everyone needs to remember this. VISM, video reviews, images, search engine content, more reviews. Let's hop on to images. You're constantly gathering images of your projects. So it's not an event. I think a lot of people think planting a garden is an event, and it's not an event. I think people think that getting married is an event. It's not an event. I think people think that raising a child is an event. It's not an event. It's a process. Every week you're gathering images, before and after images of projects you've done. How has that paid off? Just the consistency of adding before and after images of projects.
It's been it's actually done it quite well. It gets my guys, number one, it helps my staff and us know that, number one, because as the owner of the business, you can't be on every job. As you grow, it helps me know that the guys are doing what I'm wanting them to do in the field. My company is actually being portrayed the way I want it to be portrayed. But then also, people always look at a company and look at, we pull up in a nice fancy truck and they're like, "Oh, these guys, all they're going to do is the big fancy jobs." And
never call me again. Dumb is like, okay, thank you. And people have a hard time yelling at the guy who sounds dumb. So you just move on. The second is numb.
Not all our jobs are big and fancy. I mean, we talk and we work for the average Joe, the average person in the background. So when they're able to look on, and see some of these photos of it, just a little small French drain, or we poured a little 10 by 10 concrete patio, it actually helps us relate better to the clients and the customers in the field. I feel just having all those videos and pictures.
Just to be super clear, again, video reviews, got to get them every week. Images of projects, you do a great job with that. Search engine content, our team handles the optimization, the ongoing updates on the website, so you don't have to mess with that. How much does that help knowing knowing that you don't have to go in to your website and figure out how to code and update a website every week?
There's no way I'd be where I'm at if I had to sit there and mess with that. Running a company, a lot of people always say starting your business is an easy thing. It's managing it and keeping on top of it. And these little details like this, I mean, we're in the age now, word of mouth is one way, but everybody's going to Google and going to your websites to see how to get hold of you. And that's the marketing we are in today, society. And I think that is super important to have that up and running. And when I don't have to mess with it, it is blowing me away, because I mean, I got to deal with my employees, I got to deal with all this other stuff. And so it's just a huge peace of mind to know that that's just taken care of. I don't have to mess with it at all.
Now, so again, we go back to this VISM, and I think one way we learn is through repetition, video reviews, images. Wow. So you're telling me that I called you too much? I had a person yesterday who went off at me. This is a real story. Search engine content, the ongoing optimization of the website. We handle that for all of our clients. And then more reviews. We're never done getting reviews. And so right now, if somebody goes to Google and they do a search right now and they type in Tulsa tree planting, which is how I originally heard about you, was I was looking to plant trees at one of my properties. I went to a church called Church on the Move, a really wonderful church. At the time was led by Pastor Willie George. and the trees looked incredible on the property. And so I kept asking people, who does the trees, who's doing the work? And I kept hearing your name. And that's how I first met you. And now today, when someone types in Tulsa tree planting, you come up top in the search results, 703 reviews. You're constantly getting video reviews, images, search engine content, more reviews. Let's talk about that for a second. How much has it helped you to have the most Google reviews, in addition to video, but the most Google reviews?
It gives you validity. I really think with people, I kind of tell this to people all the time, is like how I talk to my buddies of mine that own businesses or in any kind of a service industry, and I'm like, what do people do nowadays? They go to Google, they Google. They're Googling for French drains, they're Googling for this, they're Googling where to go eat. And if to be at the top of Google gives you the opportunity to actually talk to a client and to bid it. Now, we still have to go out and sell the job to the client, but it's been very important and very helpful.
I have a client that I work with who asked me to call their clients to gather objective reviews. So I have a client who called me and said, hey, could you call all my former...
To be able to be at the top, to be able to get that. I don't know if I quite answered your question.
No, this is great. And you've got the 4 aspects of business I want to focus on today. Again, step 1, marketing and branding. We covered that. The web branding is just anything people see, the website, the print pieces, the logo, the auto wraps. We handle all that with you. We do a lot of that work behind the scenes. That's marketing and branding. The second step is sales. Sales is converting an ideal and likely lead or an ideal and likely buyer into an actual buyer. And I believe that a lot of times, and I've worked with companies in the past that helped me with my marketing when I was first starting djconnection.com, and I would say, well, yeah, I'm getting a lot of leads, but I'm not selling anything. And they would say, we don't really help with that. We just focus on the marketing or just the branding or just, I want to get your thoughts on the sales thing. You do a very good job of tracking. I won't share your tracking numbers on today's show, but you do a very good job of tracking. This is how many leads that came in. This is how many people bought. How has that helped you measuring and tracking your sales?
Number one, it helps me because as I've grown, I've got multiple salesmen that work with me. Number one, I'm able to see what my guys in the field are selling every week. And it also gives me time and to see, or not time, but gives me the capabilities of looking and seeing how our ebbs and flows are in my business. Because I'm an outdoor service company. So in the springs and the falls, it's able to see when I need to gear up for employees, when I need to gear up and get guys ready for stuff, when our downtimes are. So, over the last 2 years, I'm able to go back and look at going, hey,
clients, and could you and your team call my clients and ask my former clients to leave objective reviews? This is a true story.
January and February is going to be real slow. December. So I really need to start as a business owner in October, September and October, start pushing sales and start finding different ways to be able to get more business to keep my guys going so we can book out over that time. So if I wasn't able to track my sales, my leads coming in, the jobs were sold, I wouldn't know. You get so busy in your day in, day out, you don't focus on that stuff. And, me meeting with you every week as a business coach and able to sit there and look at that stuff every week, you get trained to be able to look at that stuff and be able to see stuff ahead as you're growing your business and not looking in the rearview mirror going, man, I wished I would have kept that going, or wished I would have known about that 6 months ago, because then I would have been able to adjust then to help us now. And now I'm sitting there going, hey, I got to make money to pay bills, and we got to get some jobs sold. And I'm working in the rearview mirror trying to get stuff closed that we should have been working on 3 to 4 months ago.
Now, most of the clients I work with, I charge clients a flat rate of $1,700 a month plus a small percentage of growth. And the idea is hopefully I'm the cheapest employee that you have. So you look at it and you go, okay, I'm paying this guy $1,700 a month. Okay, hopefully I'm the least expensive person on the payroll, the least expensive line item. But over time, once we produce fruit, hopefully that small percentage of the growth makes it all worth it, and so that's the idea, is to achieve that true win-win. And so the third aspect of the business coaching I wanted to cover on today's show, and I said, no problem. So on Saturdays and Sundays, I've personally
as well as with the help of one other teammate, I've been calling this guy's former clients to get reviews. And we've got a lot of management. So you look at a great project like this, you got to do marketing, branding, true. Step 2, you got to do sales. But 3, you got to manage. And I think that most people who are self-employed feel sort of isolated and annoyed. I feel like most self-employed people feel isolated and annoyed. They feel like, am I the only one seeing the level of jackassery that is often allowed in the American workplace today? And I have to work with all my wonderful clients to teach best practice management systems. And I think you do a fine job of that. That's something that you, in my opinion, is one of your strengths. You do a very good job of communicating the expectations directly to the client, and you manage those expectations. You tell the client, hey, Mr. Smith, hey, Miss Smith, we're going to have your pool, your pool remodel, or your pool fix, or your pool house fixed, or your outdoor siding project, your outdoor landscaping. We're going to have your retaining wall. We're going to have whatever the project is. We're going to have it done by this particular day. It's going to cost this amount of money. And you do a very good job of managing that relationship with the client and then managing those employees behind the scenes. Can you talk to us about the importance of just mastering management techniques?
Well, I don't know if anybody's ever a master. One of the things I've learned, and I've had clients over and over in my field sit there and go, man, when you said you were there, you were there. You were there every time you said you were going to be there. And you did what you said you were going to do. And that, number one, I like to be a man of my word. I mean, I like to be able to tell people.
Because they believe in you. And they have a lot of time on their hands. They started from the bottom, now they're here.
It's the reviews for the client. The client has grown. So now they're getting leads from the internet because they're moving up the search engines. And yesterday they got one.
When we're going to be there, I work in the outdoor industry. I mean, it rains. We're in Oklahoma, so there's, you're going to have delays. But setting those expectations with the clients, number one, helps me for, to be able to go, hey, it's rained. I can't get it. We've been delayed because of this. And setting those expectations up front makes for a happy end product with your clients. And just going through the process, say, hey, right, even when I sell the job, I'm like, hey, we're the highest rated, most reviewed, company in Tulsa right now. And here's the reason why. But that also comes with, we're really busy. We're not going to be able to get to you tomorrow. And the thing is, the people that can get to you tomorrow are probably not going to give you the best product. And setting those expectations with the clients up front, letting them know, hey, we're going to be a little behind. We're 6 weeks out. We're 8 weeks out. And letting that client know that, and then keeping them up to date. Then the client knows, hey, they just didn't take my deposit, or they just didn't take this and just disappeared. They know that, hey, we're coming down, we're there, we're still there, we're going to get it done. So I think that's one of the things that's helping really to set with your clients, and it makes it important to them at the end, because they know, I mean, some of these jobs are an investment for their backyard. It's a lot of money for them on some of these projects, and it's just like, buying a house, you want to know that you're getting what you're paying for, and it's going to be there when you expect it to be there.
And we could share just hundreds of video testimonials or Google reviews. I'm just showing some examples here. But again, the final one complaint that I personally, right now, this is a 2025 story that I personally, Clay Clark, that I have called their clients too much. One person I wanted to cover on today's show, again, I'm just making sure we're recapping. Marketing and branding, that's how you generate leads. Second step is sales. You convert ideal and likely buyers into sales. 3 is management. You have to manage the expectations. And then the final step is accounting and what I would classify as merit-based pay. At the end of the day, it's not how much money you make, it's how much you keep. And I just don't think that most people think about that when they're growing a business. And that's becoming an increasingly part of our ongoing conversations, is making sure that, because you're the kind of guy that quotes a customer a price and you hold yourself accountable to not changing your bid on the client. But that doesn't mean that subcontractors or employees won't try to change the game on you and all of a sudden drive up your expenses. So can you talk about that final step of just the accounting? Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, when they look out for them, when they reach out for a business coach or a consultant, they don't think about the accounting. But I would argue, as we continue to grow Outside Inc., the accounting aspect of your business is becoming a bigger part.
I firmly agree. I just actually just come out of a meeting talking about accounting and bills and what's coming in, fresh on my mind, And as you grow your business, one of the things I think as you're young, you're just trying to get jobs done. You're just trying to get whatever you can go. But as you grow, it becomes a huge part. It becomes, I think, more than what most people think it's going to be. And getting, keeping the money and keeping the accounting, it's just like this last year, Clay, me and you had been talking about, doing merit based. Because I think if you pay people enough where they're comfortable, they stay there.
Called one person called and said, I can't believe that man called me 3 times back to back. How do you think I
want to grow? As your business grows, you want to grow. You want to give them more money. Most people want more money. I think everybody would, not frown against getting some extra money. But as a business owner, you want your salesmen, you want your guys out there in the field wanting to be able to make more money. And if you just keep them on an hourly basis, there's no growth for them to perform better and to make more money. So this last year, I've switched my sales guys to 100% commission. I used to have them above base, and I put them over to commission. And the amount of calls of clients looking for their bids has got cut down in over half. He's selling more jobs by, I would say, 30 to 40%, maybe even more than that, since we've been tracking it. And it's made a huge thing. Because the thing is, if he doesn't sell, he doesn't get paid any money. And so, especially when you find people that are eager to make more money, they're going to sell more.
This is one thing I wanted to bring up, and I'll let you go here because I know you're a busy guy here. For anybody out there that doesn't know this, when I built my first company called DJConnection.com, after every event we did, I was obsessive about calling the bride after the wedding and asking them to leave us an objective review. Now, this is before Google was super relevant, so we had Wedding Wire and the Knot.com and those kind of things, or we would get video testimonials on an old school video camera we had back in the day. We would archive them, and at a certain point, I remember I talked to a bride, and she said to me, you have thousands of video testimonials. And I said, oh, yeah, absolutely. And then now today, people go to thrivetimeshow.com. They click on to it, Anthony.
With a numbness.
I don't even care.
Yeah.
But this client who's not going to be super successful, they are making a lot more money than they pay me. And they're making more, they're succeeding on testimonials. And I had a call I had just the other day with a wonderful man. And he was saying to me, I was going through your testimonials and I had to stop around like page 30 because I kept looking at the testimonials. And I realized there is really no end in sight. I mean, I'm looking at this and there's like years after years after years of video testimonials. And I said, well, yeah, because we document that. That's a very important thing that we do. But I want to ask you this question. For anybody out there that's thinking about coming to one of our workshops or scheduling a free 13-point assessment with myself to go over how to grow their company, what would you say, or maybe what kind of impact do you think that business coaching with our program has made on your business?
It's been huge. One of the things I've loved, the problem is a lot of times with business owners is I feel, especially with me, we come from, for my instance, I come from, I call it W-2 employee status, working for somebody and said, hey, I'm going to go out here and start my own business. Well, I didn't go to business school. Nobody's told me the next steps, what I really need to focus on. Because as you grow this business, like, what is it? You can read 1,000 books. And what's made it huge for me is to be able to come along, have you come along beside me and sit there and go, hey, you need to focus on this and this is why. You need to focus on this and this is why. Because when we get down in what I call the trenches as a business owner, you're sitting there going, man, if all you do is focus on that, you can never focus on what you really need to do. You can't focus on your accounting and stuff like that. And it's been amazing.
They're never going to be super successful until they change this mindset. What was their response to? What do you think their response was to the one complaint?
Oh, actually, I don't know how much it's grown my company so far in the last 2 years, but the peace of mind is unreal because I'm not looking at my numbers at the moment, but it has been huge. It's just like I used to have to pay. I think we were paying in the neighborhood of $4,000 a month just for leads, just to get leads in now. 2 years ago, I mean, this time of the year, I remember some bills of $4,500 a month just to get leads that I was having to pay for. And that's only get a lead and a contact, to where now I'm paying you $1,700 a month, and I got 80 some leads last week alone, and I paid you $1,700. And to me, that was huge for my industry. That was one huge thing that just blew me away.
And I'll say this too. You are a client that's more private about your numbers. That just goes with your personality type. I have some of my clients are a little bit more flashy. They love to talk about their growth sales and their sales. But I can say this. I was looking at year over year. So you take the month of May when we're recording this, and you look at this week last year. And last week you had 8 leads. So last year, this week, you had 8 leads, from what I can tell on the tracking sheet. And this week we had 89. So whatever that's worth for anybody out there. And again, we have some of our clients that like to talk about gross sales, and Paul keeps it more private, and that's totally fine. So I just encourage everybody out there, you can have a 10-fold increase in your number of leads, your amount of activity. You can do it, but you got to be a diligent doer. You can't just be a hearer of these words. You have to implement what you're learning. And Paul, I really appreciate you for making the
we're going to stop making those calls.
Right. They go, we should probably stop calling our former clients to ask for reviews because we had one complaint. Are you kidding me? Like, I'm not even. Thrivetime Show World Headquarters look incredible. Thank you for the maintenance you provide. Thank you for the work you provide. And again, it's been awesome serving you. So again, thanks for your time today, sir.
Hey, thank you, Clay. Have a great day, bud.
Clay, my honor to be on your show. And thank you for all you do. I hear the ripple effects from you are good ripple effects. You know what I mean? People rave about what they learned from you. So congratulations.
Sean, guess what's happening June 5th and 6th right here in Tulsa, Jerusalem?
We are probably going to have an amazing business conference here at Tulsa, Jerusalem.
Yes, we're joined by Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow is going to be joining us right here at the Thrivetime Show World Headquarters, June 5th and 6th. He's a very successful football player, obviously a Heisman Award winner, but he's also a very successful entrepreneur. Now, when you work with real clients, Sean, clients you really work with to help them grow their companies, do you ever hear a business owner tell you that they didn't have time to get something done?
Every day.
How often is not having enough time a problem for business owners?
All the time. It's like maybe 90% of the issues as people are trying to grow their company.
Well, Tim Tebow is going to come join us here at the in-person Thrivetime Show 2-day interactive business workshop, and he's going to teach us time management and his approach to personal self-discipline and getting things done. Also at the workshop, I'll put up on the website so people can see it here. Also at the 2-day interactive workshop, Sean, we are going to be teaching accounting, systems creation, marketing, human resources, how to hire, inspire, train, and retain great people, accounting, social media advertising. I'm starting to feel like we're on top of the target until I'm starting to take some shots.
Right.
Okay.
I'm flying the plane, search engine optimization. Sean, what's the area where most clients ask you for help the most? Is it generating leads? Is it hiring people? What's the biggest issue that most business owners have by default before they come to one of our workshops?
Well, I think it's management, because time is the most valuable resource for these business owners, and being able to manage their time is the first thing. Once they get that under control, then generally the numbers, being able to track their business and be able to make the best decisions based on numbers rather than emotions is a big area. And we teach all of this stuff at the business conference, particularly you, Clay. You love to hammer on time management. It's my favorite part of the conference.
Now, I'm going to pull this up real quick here because we're going to go through. If you're not excited, I want to get you excited about what we're going to cover at the workshop here. Okay. The 2-day interactive workshop. This is my 20th year hosting workshops. So I'm telling you, folks, we're in rare form here. So one is the idea of establishing your revenue goals. I think most entrepreneurs don't know their revenue goals. Would you agree, or am I off my rocker?
No, that's totally a very important point we do with every one of our new clients that come on board, is we have to establish the revenue goals. And generally speaking, we have a vague idea, but not an exact idea that can be engineered down into like the daily goals for sales. And so that's a really big one.
Now, next is the break-even numbers. What kind of sales do you have to do to even break even?
Yeah.
Third is how many hours per week do you want to work? What is your ideal schedule as an entrepreneur? Box number 4, how do you stand out in the clutter of commerce? What makes your company unique from all the different over the target and the enemies I don't even feel like we're having a good time until I'm taking shots. I like it. I sip on the hay. This is in a world of brown cows, herds of brown cows, proverbial brown cows, the analogy of brown cows. How can you be the purple cow that stands out? How can you be the squeaky wheel that gets the oil? Box number 5, branding. How do you improve the perception that people have of you, your business, your brand? Box number 6, marketing, your three-legged marketing stool. What is a turnkey way for you and your company to generate leads so you can succeed? Because if you don't have any leads, your business will bleed. If you can't sell, your business will go to hell. You've got to generate leads. Sean, how often do business owners by default tell you they have a hard time generating leads?
It's almost all of the time. It's really a huge struggle. And many times they may be creating leads, but just through word of mouth. So they get to a point where we've implemented systems and then they need to create more leads, but they've never had to do it. So there's a lot of different scenarios where business owners are like, how do you create leads? Something we hammer on at the conference a lot.
Box number 7, create a sales conversion system. Again, box number 7, create a sales conversion system. Sales scripts, recorded calls, one sheets, pre-written emails, lead trackers, all of the sales tools, the sales print pieces, the one sheets, the big screens that you see inside the business. Whether you're a doctor, you're a dentist, you're a lawyer, you got to have sales systems in place. We help you with that. Box number 8. What does it cost you to get another customer? Step number 8, what does it cost you to actually acquire a customer? Step number 9, it's hard to build an organization if you're not organized. We're going to teach you how to create repeatable systems, processes, file organization. Box number 10, and I say, yes, send it to me. So I tell the client yesterday, I said, hey, client, if you're going to stop, and again, this is a client. We're going to teach you how to manage people, real people on the planet Earth. This just in, we're going to teach you how to manage real people on the planet Earth. Box number 11, how to create a sustainable schedule that works for you and your family. Step number 12, how to create human resources systems for recruiting, hiring, training, and retaining great people. Box number 13, accounting. This just in, we have to cover accounting. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. We're going to cover all the accounting things you need to know. And step 14, finally, what is the point of even achieving success? We're going to go over what is the point of even achieving success, how to design a life that you're excited about, how to design a life where you carve out enough time for your faith, your family, your finance, your fitness, your friendship, your fun, and where you're going to spend your focused time. We're going to go through that, all this and more. Now, the workshop, Sean, it's June 5th and 6th. Yep. It's a 2-day interactive workshop. Yes. And tickets, we always do it at $250 or whatever price that someone can afford. Sean, why do we let people name their price? Why do we have scholarship tickets available if somebody can't afford the $250 general admission ticket?
Well, we don't want anybody to miss out on it. You know, you could be at a startup phase or you could be, way along in your business, but we want to make it accessible for everybody. I think it actually goes back to a story of your dad. And it goes all the way back to how you've always done this as a business coach, trying to make sure that, your average people out there have access to the things that work.
Now, 7 a.m. to 5, Sean, why do we go from 7 to 5 both days? I mean, it's 10 hours a day. 20 hours of training over 2 days. Why do we do 10 hours a day, Sean, of back-to-back workshops? We do a 30-minute teaching session. We do a 15-minute question and answer session, and then we take a break. 30 minutes of teaching, 15 minutes of question and answer. Then we take a... He quit calling his own clients to ask him for objective reviews because he had one person that said they didn't appreciate him calling. So he asked me to do it. And now he had one complaint, and I go, hey, listen, break. Why do we do that format, Sean?
That format is so that we can keep people engaged and not just sitting there listening, but also getting involved. We really encourage people to ask questions, and that's really where the juiciness of the conference comes out, is you can put your personal situation and your questions on the board, and Clay will tee off and give you direct advice. Even without being in our coaching program, you can get direct coaching from Clay. It's really a very engaging format. I enjoy it a lot.
Sean, final 60 seconds pop quiz here. What date is the conference?
June 5th and 6th, 2025, this year.
Question number 2, who's our keynote speaker coming to the conference there, Sean?
Tim Tebow is our keynote speaker.
Sean, question number 3, how much does it cost to come to our in-person 2-day interactive business workshop right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
I think it's, did you say it's $250 or whatever you can afford?
That's right, $250 or whatever you can afford. Sean, how do you spell Eric Trump backwards?
P-M-U-R-T-C-I-R-E. Ooh, that took a long time.
I'll have to listen to this. And you did it right. All right, again, that's Sean Lohman. I'm Clay Clark, and inviting you to come join us at the in-person Thrivetime Show 2-day interactive workshop, June 5th and 6th, right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Sean, I really am. I'm excited to have this event. I'm excited to see you at the event, June 5th and 6th, right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tim Tebow, baby. It's Tebow time in Tulsa, Jerusalem.
You could be anywhere doing a lot of different things, but you chose to be here.
Clay Clark is here somewhere. Where's my buddy Clay? Clay's the greatest.
Thrivetime show starring the former U.S. Small Business Administration's Entrepreneur of the Year, Clay Clark, and the entrepreneur trapped inside an optometrist's body.
If you're going to be successful, you've got to develop a mental callus. You just have to.
The only way you can be successful.
I met his goats today. I met his dogs. I met his chickens. I saw his compound. He's like the greatest guy.
I ran from his goats, his chickens, his dogs.
So this guy's like the greatest marketer you've ever seen, right? His entire life, Clay Clark, his entire life is marketing.
Hey guys, Luke Erickson here with the Thrivetime Show. As you can see behind me, we've got all kinds of energy going on. People are starting to show up for the conference, and it is hot in this place. We got grill guns over here. We've got people playing the drums. We've got fire breathers, and man, people are so excited as they come in. The conference is kicked off. This house is packed. We've got Aaron Hansis with Shaw Holmes up there. We've got Steve Currington with Total Lending Concepts up there talking about what is possible when you just implement, when you do the proven system. It's so exciting. People are going crazy. Guys, Luke Erickson with the Thrivetime Show here with you. It is day 2 and the energy is high. People are so excited to be showing up. The team is ready. Come on, let's see what it's like to go on in for day 2. Follow me. I tell you what, people are so excited to be here for day 2. It is going to be incredible. Cannot wait to see what today has in store.
Successful in phone sales is if you're constantly getting people to tell you to stop calling me.
Right. Now, the third is verbal communication, okay? My kids will probably hear this show.
Right now, here at the conference, we've broken into groups going over search engine optimization. And I know for most of us, myself included, if you hear that term, you go, what is that? What does that mean? That's too techie for me. Well, our experts are breaking it down for people so that you can clearly understand how to come up top in Google. It's doable. It's possible. Now we're in the middle of a break, and what we like to do is we like to give you as much tangible and relevant information from about the start of the hour for 45 minutes. Then we take approximately a 15-minute break to allow people to connect with other entrepreneurs around them, bathroom breaks, and also use this time to just really digest all of the good information that you're receiving the whole time. Right behind me, we've got Bob with his grill gun, melting an ice sculpture. It is awesome. The ice sculpture represents our life, right? It's here for a time, but we all need to have the sense of urgency to implement the things that we're learning so that we can make the most of the time that we have.
I heard about it on the podcast. Started listening to the podcast, became a fan, and then figured out about the workshop. I own an insurance and financial services agency, and I was hoping to learn from the workshop systems and processes. I'm big on systems and processes and always learning better ways to run a business more efficiently. The atmosphere's second to none. It's a high energy, really cool atmosphere to be around. Contagious, I would say. Just
Maybe they won't, maybe they will. I keep telling my kids, quit using abbreviations. Stop using slang. Stop abbreviating.
Something every entrepreneur, I think, would appreciate and love. I'd say humorous, high energy, and full of substance, which I think is the key. A lot of business coaches or seminars maybe are high on motivation and making you feel good, but don't have a lot of substance that you can take back and implement, the following Monday, where his does. Man, there's a lot of valuable things. I'm gonna say, like, this is my second workshop. The first workshop I took back really the importance of a group interview. I used to spend hours and hours interviewing people, screening resumes, and that saving my time on that part is valuable. It was that and then the sales scripting that have been two major things just so far. Man, I think they're missing out on, expert advice from somebody who's been there, done that, built companies, has learned a lot of lessons. That's what I'm always looking for, is somebody that I can learn from that's ahead of where I am. And I think if you choose not to come, you're missing out on a lot of good advice that could help your business.
Hi, I'm Aaron Antis with Shaw Homes. I first heard about Clay through a mortgage lender here in town who had told me what a great job he had been doing for them. And I actually noticed he was driving a Lamborghini all of a sudden, so I was willing to listen. In my career, I've sold a little over $800 million in real estate. So honestly, I thought I kind of knew everything about marketing and home.
Words. Stop sounding like you're in a rap video. Stop sounding like a country singer. Stop it. Maybe you saw me do it yesterday.
I see it.
But they're like, wow, this guy's got Riz.
And then I met Clay, and my perception of what I knew and what I could do definitely changed. After doing $800 million in sales over a 15-year career, I really thought I knew what I was doing. I've been managing a large team of salespeople for the last 10 years here with Shaw Homes. And I mean, we've been a company that's been in business for 35 years. We've become one of the largest builders in the Tulsa area, and that was without Clay. So when I came to know Clay, I really thought, man, there's not much more I need to know, but I'm willing to listen. The interesting thing is our internet leads from our website has actually, in a 4-month period of time, has gone from somewhere around 10 to 15 leads in a month to 180 internet leads in a month. Just from the few things that he's shown us how to implement that I honestly probably never would have come up with on my own. So I got a lot of good things to say about the system that Clay put in place with us, and it's just been an incredible experience. I am very glad that we met and had the opportunity to work with Clay. So the interaction with the team and with Clay on a weekly basis is honestly very enlightening. One of the things that I love about Clay's perspective on things is that he doesn't come from my industry. He's not somebody who's in the home building industry. I've listened to all the experts in my field.
I'm going, stop it. Don't say Riz. Say charisma. But I asked them first in the car a couple weeks ago, I said, what does Riz mean? They're like,
The company has paid for me to go to seminars, international builder shows, all kinds of places where I've had the opportunity to learn from the experts in my industry. But the thing that I found working with Clay is that he comes from such a broad spectrum of working with so many different types of businesses that he has a perspective that's difficult for me to gain because I get so entrenched in what I do, I'm not paying attention to what other leading industry experts are doing. And Clay really brings that perspective for me. It is very valuable time every week when I get that hour with him. From my perspective, the reason that any business owner who's thinking about hooking up with Thrive needs to definitely consider it is because the results that we've gotten in a very short period of time are honestly monumental. It has really exceeded my wildest expectation of what he might be able to do. I came in skeptical because I'm very pragmatic, and as I've gone through the process over just a few months, I've realized it's probably one of the best moves we've ever made. I think a lot of people probably feel like they don't need a business or marketing consultant because they maybe are a little bit prideful and like to think they know everything. I know that's how I felt coming in. I mean, we're a big company that's definitely one of the largest in town. And so we kind of felt like we knew what we were doing. And I think for a lot of people, they let their ego get in the way of listening.
I just overall, like if you're, I'm like, where does the word Riz come from? I don't know. Like, well, stop saying it. Stop it. So I'm being real. There's the word ask and there's the word axe.
To somebody that might have a better or different perspective than theirs, I would just really encourage you, if you're thinking about working with clay, I mean, the thing is, it's month to month. Go give it a try and see what happens. I think in the 35-year history of Shaw Homes, this is probably the best thing that's happened to us. And I know if you give them a shot, I think you'll feel the same way. I know for me, the thing I would have missed out on if I didn't work with clay is I would have missed out on literally an 1,800% increase in our internet leads. Going from 10 a month to 180 a month, that would have been a huge financial decision to just decide not to give it a shot. I would absolutely recommend Clay Clark to anybody who's thinking about working with somebody in marketing. I would skip over anybody else you were thinking about, and I would go straight to Clay and his team. I guarantee you're not going to regret it, because we sure haven't.
My name is Danielle Sprick, and I am the founder of D Sprick Realty Group here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. After being a stay-at-home mom for 12 years and my 3 kids started school and they were in school full-time, I was at a crossroads and trying to decide what do I want to do? My degree and my background is in education, but after being a mom and staying home and all of that, I just didn't have a passion for it like I once did. My husband...
These are two different words. There's axe and there's ask. There's the word charisma, there's charisma and there's Riz. What? So...
suggested real estate. He's a home builder, so real estate and home building go hand in hand, and we just roll with it. I love people. I love working with people. I love the building relationships. But one thing that was really difficult for me was the business side of things. The processes and the advertising and marketing. I knew that I did not have what I needed to make that what it should be. So I reached out to Clay at that time. And he and his team have been extremely instrumental in helping us build our brand, help market our business, our agents, the homes that we represent. Everything that we do is a direct line from Clay and his team and all that they've done for us. We launched our brokerage, our real estate brokerage, 8 months ago. And in that time, we've gone from myself and one other agent to just this week, we signed on our 16th agent. We have been blessed with the fact that we right now have just over 10 million in pending transactions. 3 years ago, I never would have even imagined that I would be in this role that I'm in today, building a business, having 16 agents. But I have to give credit where credit's due. And Clay and his team and the business coaching that they've offered us has been huge. It's been instrumental in what we're doing. Don't ever limit your vision. When you dream big,
you have to learn to be a strong verbal communicator. On the planet Earth, I would argue that less than 1% of the American population can communicate effectively. I would argue this. And I see
big things happen.
I started a business because I couldn't work for anyone else. I do things my way. I do what I think is in the best interest of the patient. I don't answer to insurance companies. I don't answer to large corporate organizations. I answer to my patient, and that's it. My thought when I opened my clinic was I can do this all myself. I don't need additional outside help in many ways. I went to medical school, I can figure this out. But it was a very, very steep learning curve. Within the first 6 months of opening my clinic, I had a $63,000 embezzlement. I lost multiple employees. Clay helped us weather the storm of some of the things that are just a lot of people experience, especially in the medical world. He was instrumental in helping with the specific written business plan. He's been instrumental in hiring good quality employees, using the processes that he outlines for getting in good talent, which is extremely difficult. He helped me in securing the business loans. He helped me with web development and search engine optimization. We've been able to really keep a steady stream of clients coming in because they found us on the web. With everything that I encountered, everything that I experienced, I quickly learned it is worth every penny to have someone in your team that can walk you through and even avoid some of the pitfalls that are almost invariable in starting your own business. I'm Dr. Chad Edwards, and I own Revolution Health and Wellness Clinic.
Clay, my honor to be on your show.
There's dentists, lawyers, they come into my life and they go, I had my staff meeting and I didn't know what to say. And I'm like,
Thank you for all you do. I hear the ripple effects from you are good ripple effects. You know what I mean? People rave about what they learned from you. So congratulations.
And we went from expecting maybe 250,000 this year to we're at 400,000. Hi, I'm Kelsey with K&D's Woodruff Finishing, business owner at 23. So I've been working this K&D's company for about 5 years now, and we started working with Thrive not too long ago. And we went from expecting maybe 250,000 this year to we're at 400,000. That's what we're going to hit or exceed. So we're pretty excited about that. It's been pretty much just listening to what they have to say. Their hiring process has just really been incredible as far as finding good quality help, and the just the accountability of meeting up with them weekly, and like such good insight, the resources that they have for specific business questions. It's all been really incredible. It's been a great experience, so I would recommend it to anybody.
What I've seen from Clay and his group at Thrive is they'll give you a simple system, and it's the simple systems are the ones that people can wrap their brain around. They're the ones that people can work with on a day-to-day basis.
Hi there, my name is Stephanie Pipkin. I am 24 years old and I own Black River Falls Cleaning Services. We opened in April of 2019 and it is now mid-June of 2020. So I wanted to talk today about the success and growth I have achieved by implementing.
Staff meeting with 8 people and you got nervous and overwhelmed? Well, my front desk lady didn't like what I said. Meh. I mean, what? And you know why, James? A business owner has 8 employees and they can't do
the Proven Path with Clay Clark's team and my business coach, Luke, from Thrivetime. It has been insane, to say the least. I started working with them in mid-February of this year, so we're about 4 months in of working together, and it has completely transformed my business in pretty much every facet. So I'm gonna check my notes here. So in 4 months, my leads have tripled. I was getting probably like 2 leads a week. Now I'm getting more in the like 10 to 15 leads a week. I have doubled my number of employees. I'm now hitting the highest revenue weeks in the history of the company, week to week it seems like. We went from about 6 appointments today as our highest in February to now 14 to 15 appointments a day. And hiring quality employees has become much simpler and less stressful by using their systems for hiring. I typically only get maybe 2 complaints a month, if that, and everybody shows up to work. I just have really high quality employees now, especially in something people typically consider a high turnover type of work, you know, cleaning houses, cleaning businesses. I have amazing employees now, and I get rid of the ones who are not so amazing and bring on new ones because of, you know, group interviews and interviewing every single week. It's just been great, and such I don't waste as much time on low quality candidates anymore. And your coach will hold you accountable. I mean, which I love. Again, the tough love is.
Dr. Robert Zillner. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women.
Staff meeting, do you know why?
Because they're scared to have one?
James, Anthony, what do you think, Anthony?
Well, they suck at communication.
And they've never
really great. You know, Luke's like a stern father figure, but he's also nice, but also stern when he needs to be, when I'm being lazy and not doing the things that I know I need to do because I don't want to do them. So that's just great. Worth every penny. I mean, I'd pay him $1 million a month if I can, and maybe someday I'll be able to, but I would just say go for it. If it seems like a good fit, just go for it. Do what they say, even if you think it's stupid or ridiculous, just do what they say because it'll work. You know, people, when they look at my business, you know, people in my town, they think I'm lucky. They think I'm just, you know, things just happen for me. And, you know, maybe I am lucky, but it has a lot to do with hard work and, you know, perseverance and, you know, working till you cry sometimes. That's just being an entrepreneur, which if you're a business owner, you understand that. But it's having these systems in place of, you know, of course I'm going to be successful. It's an absolute because I have all this stuff in the background happening, and I have Luke and Clay and everybody on their team working really hard to make sure that I'm a success. And I can tell that they are just so excited every single week when I'm having all these wins and things like that. They're so excited for me. So it's the best thing ever, and I would suggest to anybody to work with them. So sorry for the long-winded reply, but I just had so much to say, and I could go on for hours probably about how amazing they are. But thank you to Clay and Luke and the entire team there, everything you guys have done for me, and I am so excited to continue to work with you for years to come. Thanks so much for watching.
never done what you're doing.
True.
They've never done it. All of a sudden, they're the boss and they're afraid of their employees. It's wild. Fourth.
My saying is, if it's important to you, hire a coach. And I think that's one of the reasons people are not successful is they eat a cheeseburger instead of hiring a coach. You know what I mean? And so my coach pushes me. They're younger than me. They push harder. They're trained. And as my rich dad always said, amateurs don't have a coach, but professionals always have coaches. So I've always had coaches for whatever is important. My rich dad was one of those persons. You're on it, man. You're on it. Everybody listen to this guy. He knows what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. You have the macro picture. Very few people have that point of view.
Clay, you're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. And as they say in Stoic, the obstacle is the way. And so if you let these pinheads get in your way, you're in trouble.
Fourth thing is, this is so powerful. This is a powerful thing. You get to face life as it is and not as we wish it to be. So you get to deal with the harsh reality. Jack Welch has said, face reality as it is. Now, who's Jack Welch? I don't even know who that is. That was the CEO who turned around GE, the company started by Thomas Edison. He grew the company by 4,000%. He has a notable quote. He says, face reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. Jack Welch. And everybody I know, and this isn't talking about you, James, or you, Anthony, just in general, I'm going to pick on James because James can handle it. He's going to be entering into the mortgage business, and he's going to be super successful. I'm not saying because I'm prophetic. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying I'm not verbally anointing him. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying is he will be enormously successful because he knows that at the end of the day, 100 no's equals a yes, and that's it.
Right.
You just know that. So when you're selling mortgages and people go to your mortgage website to get a mortgage, but most people think it's about the idea. It's not about the idea. It's about the execution of the idea. We had a guy on our show named Guy Kawasaki, and he was the guy tasked and hired by Steve Jobs